A service of KIBMradio.com, the Internet's home for an all old-time radio.
Your Coca-Cola bottler presents Claudia. Claudia, based on the original stories by Rose Franken. Brought to you transcribed Monday through Friday by your friendly neighbor who bottles Coca-Cola. Relax, and while you're listening, refresh yourself. Have a Coke. And now, Claudia.
Oh, this is nice. Isn't it nice?
Yeah, but I feel a little guilty.
Guilty good or guilty bad?
Definitely bad. It's 4:30 in the afternoon. I'm walking with my wife, that's why.
That's no good reason.
Ask any man on the street. Hey, where we go?
The park?
All right. We'll cross over on 60th Street.
Oh, I wouldn't cross over on any other. Say, the apartment will be nice and clean when we get back. Bertha's thorough cleaning. And making stew for supper while she does it.
Excuse me, madam.
Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me.
Darling, watch out where you're going.
I was watching something else. Oh, David, there's a little Chinese porcelain, sort of like the one Roger gave us last night. See it in that store window there?
But it's not near as fine.
Well, even I can tell that.
You really like Roger's present, don't you?
I love it. I wouldn't part with it for the world. He's sort of like an old member of our family.
About 950 years older than we'll ever be. Especially if you don't watch out for that car. Hey, be careful, Claudia, will you?
Why should I be the lights with us?
You want that printed on your headstone?
Well, why doesn't that driver get a ticket? He could have killed you.
Me? You were the one that almost walked into him.
Oh, you were closer to him than I was.
Well, I'm tougher.
Don't depend on it. Say, let's go into the park here, David.
All right.
David, what do you think? The zoo's right over there.
No, you don't say.
Didn't you know?
I never guessed.
Oh, David, how wonderful. You're the same way about zoos I am.
I am?
I thought I'd have to educate you to him.
I'll have you know that I have had an elephant staked out in this zoo for years.
You have?
Mm-hmm. She's nothing but a baby, but she's the sweetest little elephant you ever saw. I've kept an eye on her since the day she was born.
Oh, David, now how could you have had her staked out for years and still say she's nothing but a baby?
It is obvious, my dear, that you don't know elephants like I know elephants. Tilly is a baby at heart, a baby among elephants.
How old is she?
Oh, about 18. Just the same age as you are. What curves, what dimensions. The man who invented the elephant really did something, you know that? Elephants are Gothic.
And Tilly, I suppose, is the most Gothic of all.
Oh, not yet. She is but a babe in arms.
Say, David, how do you think Tilly will feel about me?
I don't know. I'm hoping that she'll greet you with an open trunk, but I don't know. She's quite a jealous elephant.
Look, why don't you tell her I'm your sister?
Oh, Tilly's not so dumb. She could tell right off that you weren't.
How?
She's a woman. She can tell.
Hey, let's buy some peanuts. I love peanuts. Here's little man. Don't you love his whistle? Listen to his whistle.
2 bags of peanuts, please. 1 for the elephant and 1 for the lady.
Oh, sure. Here you are. Hey, you want some nice popcorn for your wife? I got them nice and fresh. Lots of butter, lots of salt. Do you like?
I love buttered popcorn. Does Tilly like popcorn?
Tilly? Oh, you mean the elephant? Oh,
yeah.
Sure. She's my best customer. If Tilly's not here, I'll be somewhere else.
Well, that puts my nose out a little.
But you got to remember, you got to give Tilly the peanuts first. You see, if you give her the popcorn first, she don't eat the peanuts. Oh, Tilly, she love a butter popcorn.
Thank you very much. Right this way, dear. Tilly lives over there beyond the menagerie. And I hope you noticed. Even the peanut man knew you were my wife.
Is that good?
Just the way it should be.
I think so.
Hey, watch out for the kids on the bike.
Hey, boys, wait
David,
up.
What?
I won't go another step.
Why not?
You've got to tell me something first.
Anything. What?
How do you feel about chimpanzees?
Chimpanzees, second best elephant.
Oh, that's good. They're smarter than elephants, too, you know.
No, they only look smarter.
Well, what's the use of being smart if you don't look it?
You ought to know. Hey, we're just in time.
For what?
For dinner. The seals are being fed.
Oh, let's. Gosh, they sound awfully hungry. Let's go over there.
Hey, look at that one jump.
Oh, they make swimming look so easy.
Here, how would you like to throw a fish?
I forgot to bring some along. I'll throw him a peanut, though.
Where'll he go put the shell?
In their pocket, silly. Here, catch. Oh, miss. See, after Tilly, we'll come back to the seals, okay?
All right. Hey, you never should be allowed in a zoo. You're too silly for words.
Oh, David. Have a peanut, silly.
I wouldn't deprive you.
There are the elephants right around the bend.
Oh, they've got a couple of new ones.
Can you tell from over here?
Of course.
Well, I'm impressed.
Well, here we are. Look at them.
Which one is Tilly?
Can't you tell?
How should I tell?
By her personality, of course. She's so light on her feet. She has such abandon.
Is she that one?
Which one?
The one over there rolling her eyes, see?
That one? Oh, no. That is Tilly's father.
Oh, I'm
Anyone could tell that.
Careful, David. He's going to blow water at you.
At you mean? For calling him a she.
How do I know whether he's a he elephant or a she?
Oh, that's very simple.
It is?
Mm-hmm. Lady elephants have much shorter tusks than gents.
Oh, then it is simple. Say, look at that cute little elephant coming this way.
Hello, Tilly.
David, is it?
It is.
Oh, I don't blame you then. She's charming. She's such a lovely gray
Here,
color.
give her some peanuts, Claudia.
Here, Tilly, 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 Tilly.
Claudia,
Tilly,
she's
Tilly.
an elephant, not a cat.
Maybe she doesn't know it, David. She came right over.
Hello there, lady. How you been? Nice. Did you miss your Uncle David while he was off getting married? What's so funny? You think she doesn't understand, huh?
Look at that little boy's face, David.
Oh, he's a good boy. He realizes elephants are fascinating creatures.
It's not the elephant, David. It's you. Bertha, are you still here?
Yeah, I'm in the bedroom, Mrs. Norton. Finished almost.
Don't hurry. Oh, I didn't realize how tired I was, David.
Here, I'll hang up your coat, darling. You sit down.
David, watch out.
Claudia.
Oh.
Now, why didn't you throw the shelves away in the park?
And dirty up the lovely park, I should say not. I'll pick him up. Won't take me a second.
Yeah, I'll help. Move over.
Oh, David, this is a lovely afternoon, wasn't it?
Not so bad. Good seeing Tilly again.
Nice to have met her. I'd like to know what my competition is.
You haven't got any.
Haven't I?
I'll tell you a secret. Tilly's gotten stout since I saw her last.
Happens to the best of them. Doesn't pay to let yourself go.
Now, you let that be a lesson to you.
I won't eat more than a ton of peanuts a day, darling. Say, this room looks completely different when you're sitting on the floor. Not half so bad.
Here, hand me your shells. I'll throw them in the waste paper basket.
It's all right. I can reach it here under the table.
Hey, Claudia, careful. You almost knocked that table over.
Oh, no. The mandarin's on this table. Say, David, now that I see him again, he's much handsomer than the one in that store this afternoon. He has much more personality.
No comparison. No comparison at all.
You know, I don't think I've ever owned anything I like as well. I wonder if Mama called while we were out.
Ask Bertha, why don't you? I'll call the office in the meanwhile.
Give Roger my regards. Tell him thanks again for the little porcelain mandarin.
Anything else?
Just one more thing.
This?
How'd you guess?
You're so subtle.
Huh?
You close your eyes.
David, I'm glad you like elephants.
Well, what's that got to do with us?
Everything.
How would you like to go to a baseball game sometime?
I've never been to one. Would I like it?
Oh, you'd love it. They sell peanuts.
Let's go, but not tonight.
No? Well, I'd better call Roger before it's too late.
Here, help me up before you go.
There you are. Darling, have we got another small table in the house?
Certainly, there's one over by the window.
I think we ought to put it over here by this chair. Let's put the mandarin on it. This one seems awfully unsteady.
That's a good idea.
No, I'll do it when I come back.
Mrs. Norton, I finished the bedroom.
Oh, Bertha, wonderful. Did anybody call while we were out?
No, the phone did not ring once. I dust a little in here now, yeah? You do not mind.
No, I do not mind. We'll go in the bedroom and not disturb you. Bertha.
Yeah?
When was the last time you went to the zoo?
Oh, such a long time ago.
Well, do me a favor and go again soon with Fritz.
Oh, we are too old. The zoo is for young people and children.
Oh, no, it isn't, Bertha. That's a mistaken idea. And Bertha, if Fritz is anything like Mr. Naughton, he'll act like a perfect fool, and you'll wish you'd never gone with him. Only you'll never want to go with anybody else. Here, let me help you with this chair.
I can do it.
Don't be silly. I like to help you. There.
I just fast and come back tomorrow.
The mandarin.
All in little pieces. It is broken.
Oh, look at it.
Oh, Mrs. Norton, look what I've done in 100 pieces. I'm so clumsy.
It's all right, Bertha.
All right, never the beautiful little doll all in pieces. Bertha, you are such a dumkopf.
It's my fault, Bertha. I should have put the other table here.
Mrs. Norton, I'll buy you another. Tell me. I go right now and please tell me
Don't
where.
be silly, Bertha. It's not worth all this fuss.
But I must get you another.
We'll get ourselves another.
Maybe it isn't so simple.
Well, it's simpler than that. This was just a cheap little china doll we bought at the 10-cent store. It's certainly not worth all this fuss, Bertha.
You can get another just like it?
Exactly like it. No trouble at all.
Mrs. Norton, I'm so glad. I was so unhappy I broke
I have already forgotten about it, Bertha. We'll get another in the morning.
And I pay for it.
Anything you say, just so you don't worry.
I feel better now about it. I help you pick up the pieces.
Oh, it's much too late. Say, Fritz will be sending the police out for you if you don't get downstairs. I'll pick up the pieces myself.
Mrs. Norton, good night. I come up early tomorrow.
Fine, Bertha. And thanks for coming up.
I'll buy you another little doll tomorrow. Good night.
Oh, David.
Hello, darling.
David, he's broken in little pieces.
I know.
You saw it?
Mm-hmm. I heard you, too. You know, you're a nice girl, darling. I love you.
What else could I do, David?
I know lots of people who wouldn't have thought to do what you did.
Oh, anybody would have. Anybody who'd had as nice a day as I've had.
Think so?
I was just being selfish, David. I couldn't bear to spoil the lovely afternoon we had by seeing Bertha so upset. Besides, the mandarins live to be centuries old, and Bertha already thinks she's too old to go to the zoo.
Do me a favor, darling.
What, David?
I promise to take you to the zoo once every week if you promise to stay just this selfish. It's a deal?
It's a deal. Come on. Help me pick up the mandarin's pieces.
All story material used on this broadcast of Claudia was under the supervision of Rose Franken and William Brown Maloney. It's no trick these days to buy enough Coca-Cola to take home and stock up the family refrigerator. But did you know that more and more food stores are also installing the familiar red cooler so that you can enjoy ice-cold, delicious Coca-Cola on the spot and shop refreshed? It's a point to bear in mind the next time you do your marketing. Every day, Monday through Friday, Claudia comes to you transcribed with the best wishes of your friendly neighbor who bottles Coca-Cola. So listen again tomorrow at the same time. And now this is Joe King saying au revoir, and remember, whoever you are, whatever you do, wherever you may be, when you think of refreshment, think of Coca-Cola. For ice-cold Coca-Cola makes any pause the pause that refreshes. hear is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Fatima Cigarettes, best of all king-size cigarettes, brings you Dragnet on both radio and television.
You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned a homicide detail. You receive a complaint about the owner of an apartment building. He signs leases for the apartments, and he threatens to kill the tenants if they move in. Your job? Investigate.
Comparison proves Fatima quality.
Yes, comparison proves Fatima quality.
Compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
1. Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
2. Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
3. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs. 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
And you get an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality.
Definitely the best quality in its class, but the same price as the cigarette you are now smoking.
In Fatima, the difference is quality. Buy Fatima in the bright, sunny yellow pack. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Wednesday, May 9th. It was hot in Los Angeles. We were working the night watch out of homicide detail. My partner's Ed Jacobs. The boss is Captain Lorman. My name's Friday. It was 6:47 p.m. when I got back to the Capitol Avenue Auto Court. Cotty's number 11.
No reason in the world for it. I tried to reason with him. He wouldn't even listen. It's the craziest thing I ever saw.
Yes, ma'am. Joe, did you find the phone all right?
Yeah, I checked the office. Lopey says they picked up Daniels a few minutes ago. They'll bring him downtown now.
Oh, they got him, did they? They're going to put him in jail?
Well, it depends, ma'am. It's going to take a little more investigating first.
I don't see what else you need. He threatened us with a gun, me and Doris Ashby. If that isn't a crime, I don't know what is.
A few more questions we'd like to ask you, ma'am, if you don't mind. A couple of things we'd like to clear up.
I told you just how it happened. Doris will tell you the same thing. He's just a crazy old man, if you ask me. Ought to be put away.
Did you ever have any trouble with Mr. Daniels before this afternoon, Miss Cameron?
Excuse me, the baby.
Yes, ma'am.
What is it now, honey? Can't you sleep? You try now, won't you? Daddy will be home pretty soon. That's a good boy. You try and sleep now.
Miss Cameron?
Yes. Oh, you be quiet now. I don't want any trouble from you. You heard me. Be quiet now.
You got your hands full, ma'am.
Don't I know it? A canary, a 4-month-old baby trying to keep house in an auto court. If I knew it was going to be like this, I never would have left Paso Robles.
You've only been in town a week or so, is that right?
It's closer to 2 weeks. Seems more like 2 months trying to get along in a place like this. A room and a bath, no place to cook, rinse out diapers. It's terrible. I told my husband he should come down here alone, find us a place to live first. Then we could move. No, he had to have it his way.
Mm-hmm. You say your husband made the first contact with Daniels. He gave him a deposit on this apartment, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. The same day he started work at the aircraft plant in the valley. We've been living in Paso Robles since we got married. A month ago, Pete, that's my husband, he got a lead on this aircraft job down here. Him and Ralph came down and signed up for it.
Ralph, who's that, ma'am?
Ralph Ashby. He's Doris's husband. Doris Ashby. She's my best girlfriend. We were neighbors up in Paso Robles.
Oh, I see.
They're not doing much better than we are right now. They're staying in another court up the street. Same thing, room and a bath. Doris is expecting, too, poor kid. Did you hear me? You be quiet now. You want to wake up the baby?
About the arrangements your husband made with Daniels to lease this apartment, Miss Cameron, when was all this?
A week ago Monday, the day after I moved down here. My husband and Ralph Ashby saw the rental ad in the paper, and they went over and talked to Daniels. He said, all right. He had an apartment for the Ashbys and one for us. Nice places, too.
I see.
Ralph and my husband signed the leases, gave him the first and last month's rent in advance. It was all decided.
Well, how is it you couldn't move in right away, Miss Cameron?
Well, he said he was having the apartment house redecorated. Daniels did, I mean. He told Ralph and my husband the apartments would probably be ready for us on the 8th. That was yesterday. He said the 9th for sure, and that's today.
And you tried to move in this afternoon, and Daniels refused to let you in. Is that it?
I had the movers get all our things out of storage and move them out to the apartment. So did my girlfriend, Doris. The movers were just starting to get our furniture out of the van and move it into the apartment when Mr. Daniels showed up. He acted like a crazy man.
Well, did he give you any reasons why you couldn't move in?
He tried to give us a lot of reasons. None of them made any sense. You can ask Doris. She'll tell you. She was there with me.
Well, what did Daniel say, now, just for instance?
He said a lot of things. First, he told us there was no water in the apartments. It hadn't been turned on yet. He said the gas wasn't turned on either. Well, I knew that was a lie. I was in the apartment late in the morning. Everything was fine. The gas was working, so was the water.
I see.
When I caught him in that lie, he got madder than ever, made some more excuses. Then he started yelling and swearing at me right there on the sidewalk. Said the apartment just wasn't ready yet. I told him to go climb a tree. We signed the lease. We paid the rent. We were moving in anyway. Told the movers to go ahead, take in the furniture.
Well, what did Daniel say then?
Nothing. He just got real purple in the face, and he put his hand in his coat pocket, and he took out a gun, pointed it at me and Doris, and I had the baby in my arms. Imagine that.
He actually told you he'd shoot you if you tried to move in the apartment, is that right?
In so many words, yes, he did. He threatened the moving men, too. They tried to talk to him. He wouldn't listen. We all tried to talk to him. He didn't make any sense at all. I wasn't going to take any chances with the baby in my arms. Doris and I got in the car and drove away. So did the movers. They left with us. Can't say I blame them either.
Yes, ma'am.
That Daniels must be out of his mind. It's the only thing I can figure. A real nut.
Well, did either you or your husband have any arguments with him at all before this afternoon?
No, everything was fine. This afternoon was the second time I ever spoke to the man.
And he had no objections to your having children or pets in the apartment?
None at all. That's one of the first things my husband told Daniels when he went to look at the apartment. We had a baby and a canary. Daniel said it was all right with him. He didn't object at all.
I understand there's 6 apartments in the building, Miss Cameron, that right?
Yes, that's right. They're all vacant as far as I know. Daniels just bought the building a month ago. That's what he told my husband anyway. He had the place redecorated and the work was all done. The apartments are just sitting there. That's why I can't understand it. Why won't he let us move in?
Yes, ma'am.
We paid our money, signed the lease. If he gave us any kind of a good reason why we shouldn't move in, I could understand it. But to keep us out for no reason at all, to stand out there on the sidewalk and threaten to shoot us if we move in, me with a baby in my arms, I don't know. He must be crazy.
You say you were in the apartment this morning, Miss Cameron. Did you notice anything unusual about the place, anything out of the ordinary?
No, nothing.
And you say Daniels couldn't give any reason at all why you shouldn't move in?
Just one. It convinced me.
Yeah.
That gun.
Before we left Mrs. Cameron, we took her crime report and had her sign it, and then we drove back downtown to the squad room where Gene Bechtel and Lloyd Bond were waiting with the suspect, Edward Daniels. They'd already checked him through R&I. He had no previous criminal record. They gave us a .22 caliber H&R revolver along with 6 shells which had been found on the suspect at the time of his arrest. The gun had been loaded. Pawn shop records showed that the weapon had been purchased by the suspect and had been registered in his name. We had stenographer Eleanor Eastlack type up the crime report, and Ed and I took Daniels down the hall to the interrogation room. He was a small, thin man, blue eyes, gray hair.
Don't know what all the fuss is about. I own the building. I can keep people out if I want to.
Well, we saw the lease you signed with the Camerons. The other couple, too, they paid their rent. Why the sudden change of heart?
I don't think that's any of your business. Matter between me and the tenant.
It's our business when you threaten him with a gun, Daniels. Assault with a deadly weapon, that's a felony.
Didn't hurt the woman. Just wanted to scare her, that's all. Just a couple of farmers anyway. Never should have given him the lease in the first place. Lousy kid with him and that bird chirping all the time.
How'd you happen to have that gun with you this afternoon?
Didn't happen to have it. Carry it all the time. It's my business, isn't it? Registered down here.
Mean you got a permit to carry this gun?
Don't need a permit. It's registered, isn't it?
Who gave you the idea because the gun's registered you can carry it around your pocket?
Friend of mine. Nothing wrong with it, is there?
Having a gun registered is nothing more than keeping a permanent record of it. You can keep the gun in your home or in your office, but it doesn't give you the right to carry it around with you.
Oh? Why didn't they tell me that when I had it registered?
You were told, Mr. Daniels. You know that.
Well, I don't remember it.
Doesn't make much difference if you remember or not. Nobody has a permit to threaten people with a gun.
Told you I wasn't going to hurt her. She just kept arguing with me. I'm a sick man, you know. Thought she was going to hit me.
You mean while she was holding that baby in her arms? Now, come off it, Daniels. What's this thing all about?
Told you before. I think that's my business.
You signed a year's lease with the Camerons. You accepted the first and last month's rent. You took their money. You advised them they could move in this afternoon. When they try to move in, you meet them at the front door and threaten them with a gun. Now, what's it all about? None of this makes any sense.
Changed my mind. I'm not ready to rent them out yet.
Well, then why'd you sign that lease with the Camerons? How about it, Mr. Daniels? If there's something in that building you're trying to cover up, you might as well tell us. A couple of men out there now checking it.
You can go ahead and check. I don't care. They won't find anything. Got nothing to hide.
How long have you lived here, Daniels?
18, 20 years. Why?
Where'd you live before you came here?
Ohio. Cleveland, Ohio.
You ever been arrested?
Yeah, a couple of traffic tickets. Cop said I went through a stop signal. I wasn't guilty, though. What's the point, anyway? What are you trying to get at? Trying to force me to let those people in that apartment?
I'm not trying to force you into anything, Daniels. Business about the lease is a civil matter. That's between you and the Camerons.
And what are you holding me here for?
We told you. You threatened that woman with a gun. She signed an ADW report.
What do you mean, ADW?
Assault with a deadly weapon. Now, that's a pretty serious charge, Daniels.
Didn't hurt the woman, didn't even touch her.
Pointed the gun at her, didn't you?
Yeah.
The gun was loaded, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was capable of being fired?
Yeah, but I wasn't going to shoot her, I told you. Just wanted to scare her off, get her out of there. It's the truth. I wasn't going to shoot her. What do I have to do to convince you?
You don't have to convince us.
What do you mean? Who do I have to convince?
You got your choice, a judge or a jury. Ed and I took the suspect, Edward Daniels, down to the main jail where we booked him in on suspicion of 467 PC ADW. Before he was locked up, Daniels asked us if we would take the keys to his car and the keys to his apartment house to an Oliver Randall, an employee of his who acted as a janitor and general handyman at 2 other apartment houses Daniels owned. We told him we would. After we left the main jail, we checked with the office, and then we drove out to the location of the apartment house to interview the neighbors and deliver the keys to Daniels' handyman, Oliver Randall. Other than telling us that they considered Mr. Daniels a little eccentric, the neighbors were unable to give us any additional information that might help us in the prosecution. After we finished talking to the neighbors, we went across the street to the apartment house. There were lights burning in the upper rear apartment. We tried the bell, but there was no answer. From the set of keys Daniels had given us, we found the one that fit the door and let ourselves in. We heard somebody moving around on the floor above us. We went up and found a man there who identified himself as Oliver Randall. He appeared nervous and upset. There were papers and rags scattered over the floor of the room.
Oh, yeah, I was just cleaning up here. Mr. Daniels told me to be sure and clean this up, the papers and junk.
I see. Well, here's some keys for you, Randall. Daniels asked us to get them to you.
Oh, yeah, apartment house keys. Mr. Daniels was supposed to meet me here. He said 8 o'clock. I think that's what he said. I wonder where he is. You know where he is?
Yeah, he's in jail.
Oh, what's he doing in jail? Did he do something wrong?
He's had a complaint filed against him, assault with a deadly weapon.
What happened? He got mad at somebody? Mr. Daniels has got an awful bad temper. When he gets mad at somebody, he doesn't forget it. I know. I worked for him.
How long have you worked for him, Randall?
I don't know. A long time. Maybe 5 years. I forget.
You say Daniels has a bad temper. Have you ever known him to be violent, Randall?
How's that?
Well, have you ever known him to be violent? I mean, have you ever known him to hurt anyone?
Well, I don't know. I don't remember. A lot of times he says he's going to do things. I work for him, you know. A lot of times he gets mad at me. He says I don't work fast enough or I don't do the right things. He always carries his gun, you know. Once he said he was going to shoot me, I was pretty scared.
You live with Mr. Daniels, do you?
No, I have a room downstairs in another apartment house. He owns a place over on South Hoover. It's a nice room. It's got a window in it.
You're on a regular salary, that the way you work?
Yeah, $15 a week. I get the room free, too. It's not bad.
You ever been arrested, Randall?
Me? No, I've never been arrested.
You ever been in the state hospital, any kind of an institution?
No, I was up at Camarillo for a couple of years. I didn't like it too much. I came down here to live with my sister. She's dead now. She died about 4 years ago. She's the one that got me this job, you know.
That's all?
Oh, yeah. This isn't a bad job at all. Jobs are pretty hard to get now. That's what Mr. Daniels says. Real tough to get a good job now. That's why I do what I'm told. I better get on fixing up this place.
Well, how'd all these rags and papers get here, Randall? The painters leave them behind?
No, I guess so. I guess somebody left them here.
We understood the apartments were already cleaned up. They were ready to move into.
What's that?
I say we understood the apartments were all fixed up, that they were ready for the tenants to move right into.
Oh, I don't know. I wouldn't know about that. Mr. Daniels takes care of renting the places. I just help him. I do what he tells me.
Joe?
Yeah?
You notice that smell? Seems to be stronger out in the hall.
Yeah, I think I do. How long's it been since the painters were working here, Randall? Do you know that?
Painters? I don't know. A couple days, I guess. What's the matter?
That's a pretty strong smell. Might be paint there, something like that. Don't you notice it?
Oh, yeah, I've been wondering about that. I noticed it when I came in. It might be from upstairs, the attic. Painters were working up there, too, I think.
Don't you think you ought to check it, see what it is?
Mr. Daniels didn't tell me to. I guess I better, though. Smells pretty strong. I guess I better see what it is.
Well, how do you get to the attic from here?
Down the end of the hall. There's a stairway there. It goes right up into the attic. I'll show you.
All right, fine.
Yeah, smells like gasoline or something.
All the apartments are vacant, is that right? No one living in the building at all?
Yeah, that's right. You go up the stairs here. Mr. Daniels had the whole place worked over. Nobody here at all right now. I guess they'll be moving in pretty soon. Going to be a lot of work. Got the other 2 apartment houses to take care of, and there's going to be this place. It's going to be a lot of work.
Daniels hire anyone else besides yourself to help out with the work, I mean?
No, I don't think so. Just me. I keep pretty busy. Here's the attic.
This must be where it's coming from.
Yeah, it's strong enough to knock you over in it.
The light switch is over here. Just a minute.
It's sure a mess. Papers, boxes, pile of old rags.
That 5-gallon can there on the floor.
Kerosene.
Yeah, it's just about empty, too.
It's all spilled all over the floor. Mr. Daniels ain't going to like that. He's going to get mad.
You usually keep this stuff up here, do you, Randall?
No, I guess it was with the painter's stuff. Those cans and things on the table there, I guess it got knocked off and spilled. Spilled all over the place, didn't it?
Well, how come the painting crew didn't take their stuff with them when they left? All this equipment here. They're all finished with the job, aren't they?
I guess so. You'd have to ask Mr. Daniels about that. They're all finished on the inside. I know that. They have the outside to do, though. Maybe that's why they left their stuff.
Well, it's not a very safe way to leave it. Rags, papers, look here, kerosene spilled all over. You better get this place cleaned up first, don't you think, Randall?
Well, I don't know. I sure wish Mr. Daniels was here. You won't let him know, will you?
What do you mean, let him know what?
Don't tell him I let you see the attic, huh?
9:35 p.m. Ed and I left the handyman, Oliver Randall, at his apartment house, went outside and got in the car. Neither one of us could find any explanation for it, but we both had a hunch there was something wrong with the setup. We drove to a neighborhood service station, called the office, and told them that we were going to stake the apartment house. We drove back and found a place to park where we could keep the building under surveillance without being seen. We waited. 10 p.m., 10:30, 11 o'clock. At a few minutes past 11, we saw Randall come out of the front door of the apartment, get in a blue sedan, and drive off. We followed him to an apartment building on West Pico and saw him enter a rear door. We waited. At 12:15 a.m., Ed got to a phone, called Captain Bernard at the business office, and notified him of our location. At 12:45 a.m., two men arrived to relieve us, and we briefed them on the facts. We drove back to the office, made out a 15.7 to Captain Lorman, and signed out. At 4 o'clock the next afternoon, we reported back in for work. We checked the book and found a message that the suspect, Edward Daniels, had been released from jail that morning on a writ, bail $2,500. The writ was returnable Thursday, May 10th. There was also a message in the book for us to contact Daniels' attorney, Richard Tiernan. Ed put in the call.
Yes, sir. I see. What's that? Yeah, I know. All right, Mr. Tiernan. Yeah, thank you. Goodbye. You were right, Joe.
What do you mean?
Daniel's lawyer wanted to know how serious the charges are. He says Daniels is pretty upset. Seems he had some trouble lately. His insurance company.
Well, what's the matter? You have an accident?
The insurance company doesn't seem to think it was an accident. Happened 2 months ago at an apartment house over on South Union.
Yeah.
Burned down.
You are listening to Dragnet. Authentic stories of your police force in action.
Fatima, America's first largest-selling blended cigarette. Now, best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Prove it yourself today. Compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
1. Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
2. Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
3. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
And in Fatima, you get an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality.
To show our confidence in Fatima, we make this money-back guarantee to every king-size cigarette smoker.
Buy a pack of Fatimas. Enjoy Fatima quality, extra mildness, and superbly blended tobaccos.
If you're not convinced Fatima is better than the king-size cigarette you're now smoking, just return the pack and the unsmoked Fatimas before August 1st, 1952, and we'll give you your money back plus postage. Fatima, Box 37, New York 1.
Remember, because of its quality, its extra mildness, its better flavor and aroma, more smokers now insist on Fatima than ever before.
Insist on the best. Fatima, extra mild and soothing, plus the added protection of Fatima quality. Smoke Fatima. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Thursday, May 10th, 4:30 p.m. We contacted the fire department's arson squad to find out if the fire at Daniels' apartment house on South Union Avenue 2 months before was under investigation. After checking back, they told us investigators from the arson squad had found a large amount of kerosene to be present in some of the burned timbers found in the debris after the fire was put out. They said that Mr. Daniels had admitted after the fire that the apartment building had been recently redecorated and that kerosene, paint, and other inflammables had been stored in the attic of the building. Ed and I contacted the insurance adjuster handling the case, a Snyder Peebles, and he told us there wasn't any doubt in his mind that the fire at Daniels' apartment house 2 months before was of incendiary origin. But he said so far the investigators were unable to prove it. The one thing that seemed to puzzle him was if Daniels planned on burning down the building Why did he go to the trouble and expense of redecorating first? Well, as soon as it was dark, Ed and I drove out, relieved the men on stakeout at the apartment house on West Pico, where the handyman, Oliver Randall, had his room. They reported no unusual activity during the day. 7:32 p.m., Randall came out of the apartment house, got in a car, and drove off. We followed him.
If we got this Randall made right, it shouldn't be too long before we find out. Daniels is using him to work something out. Pretty sure we can count on that.
Yeah, maybe. I'll watch it, Ed. He's turning down Union.
Yeah.
He's pulling up ahead. Don't crowd him.
There's a good spot here. Shouldn't be able to see us.
All right, pull up in here.
All right.
That's fine. He's getting out of the car. He's going over to the house.
Down the driveway. Going around back. He's out of sight now.
All right, let's go.
Still no lights in the place. Oh, yeah, there they go, in the basement.
All right, easy. Let's take it easy.
All right.
Yeah, I think I can see the back door from here. All right, come on, easy now.
What is it?
All right, easy with this door, Ed. Don't let it bang.
Uh-huh. Where now?
Sounds like somebody upstairs, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
All right, come on, watch your step. Come on, next floor up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's up in the attic. Come on. All right, come on. Through this door. Back in the corner, Ed.
I see him. All right, hold it, you.
What's the matter?
There's a fire, Ed, over in the corner. I'll get it. Hold on to him.
Right.
Well, don't put it out.
You need any help, Joe? You getting it all right?
No, I'm getting it all right. Just a minute. There, I got it.
Okay. You want to get the lights?
I got them. All right, Randall, what's the story?
He told me to do it. He told me to come back tonight and burn the whole place down.
Who told you?
He said, Ollie, you go back to the place, to the attic, light a match, that's all, and then get out. Mr. Daniels, that's just what he said.
Daniels told you to do this?
He told me just light a fire and nobody'd know. He said there wasn't going to be any trouble. No trouble at all.
Well, it gives you the edge, doesn't it?
No trouble, he said.
Yeah, well, next time you see him, you can call him a liar. 8:50 p.m. After making sure that the place was secure and that there was no danger of fire from the recent arson attempt, Ed and I took the suspect, Oliver Randall, outside and put him in the car where we questioned him. He made no attempt to disguise the fact that he had been directed by his regular employer, Edward Daniels, to commit arson by setting fire to the attic of the apartment house. In addition, he told us that Daniels had threatened him with bodily harm if he refused to obey the order and set fire to the building.
He had this gun, you know, Mr. Daniels did. He always had it with him. I was scared of it, I don't mind telling you.
Uh-huh. Well, he threatened to kill you if you didn't do what he wanted, that it?
Yeah, I guess so. He used to get mad a lot of the time, and he had this gun. He always had the gun. He'd get mad at me and tell me he was going to shoot me. I'm afraid of guns.
How about the fire at the other apartment house, Ollie, the one over on South Union Avenue?
Yeah, that was a big fire.
Did you start that one?
Daniels told me there was nobody living there. He said nobody'd get hurt. Nobody did get hurt, did they?
Did you start the fire?
Yeah, I guess so. Yes, I did.
Mr. Daniels tell you to do it?
He said it was his building. He owned it. He could do anything with it he wanted to. I didn't want to do it. He told me I'd have to. He said he'd hurt me with that gun. And he said he'd fire me, too. I didn't want to lose my job.
You knew you were doing wrong, didn't you, Ollie?
Well, I guess I did, yeah. What could I do, though? I didn't want to lose my job. Good jobs aren't too easy to get nowadays. You know that.
Where's Mr. Daniels now, do you know?
You're not going to tell him what I told you, are you? He said not to say anything about it. He said nobody'd believe me anyway. Nobody. He said he'd tell everybody I was a liar. Said they'd believe him before they'd believe me.
Well, where's Daniels now?
If I tell you, you won't let him hurt me, will you?
No, we won't let him hurt you. You're going to have to help us out, though.
What do you want me to do?
I'd like to find out where Daniels is first.
He's in a movie over on Pico by his house. He's waiting for me.
You mean he's waiting for you in the show?
See, in the center section, 10 rows from the back. He's waiting for me now.
Well, how's it you're supposed to meet him there?
I don't know. He said if anybody wanted to know where we were tonight, this would prove we didn't start the fire. We were at the show. I was supposed to start the fire and then go to the show and meet him 10 rows from the back, the center section.
You want to show us where this movie is, Ollie?
Yeah, okay. Mr. Daniels won't tell you anything. No, he's going to be mad. He won't tell you anything.
Well, that's where we need your help, Ollie.
What do you mean?
We'll let him tell you. 9:44 p.m. Ed and I, along with the suspect, Oliver Randall, drove to the movie house on West Pico. On the way, we explained to Randall what he was supposed to do. 9:55 p.m. We parked our car half a block from the movie house, bought 3 tickets, and went inside. The feature picture was still on. There wasn't much of a crowd. We sent Randall down the aisle ahead of us and watched him move into the 10th row and sit down next to somebody. Ed and I followed him down and found seats in the road directly behind him. We recognized the man sitting next to Randall as Edward Daniels.
Hello, Mr. Daniels. I did it just the way you told me up in the attic. It was okay.
Nobody saw you? You didn't have any trouble at all?
No, it was okay. I don't feel so good about it, though.
What do you mean? What are you talking about?
I don't know. Maybe somebody might find out. Don't you think we'd get in trouble if they found out?
You just keep your mouth shut. I'll attend to that. Nobody's going to find out.
All right, Daniels, you mind coming outside? We'd like to talk to you.
What are you doing here?
Come on, we'll talk outside.
What's this all about?
We'll let you tell us.
All right, what do you want? You arresting me?
That's right, mister.
Why? What's it supposed to be this time?
Think you know? Arson, conspiracy. Caught Randall here. Caught him right in the act. He told us the whole story.
What? Ollie? What story? What is this?
I told you I didn't want to do it, Mr. Daniels. I told you we'd get in trouble.
Fool. Stupid fool. Should have known better.
Yeah, you should have.
Just 2 questions for you, Daniels. Why'd you burn down your own property? Why'd you redecorate the buildings first?
I never forgot it. Told him when it happened. I wouldn't forget it as long as I lived.
What do you mean, forget what?
24 years ago, I was just starting out. A small store back in Ohio burned down. Real fire. Lousy insurance company that wouldn't believe me. Had to sue. Lost the whole thing. Had to start all over again. I told him I'd never forget it. Told him I'd make him pay.
And you've been nursing this grudge for 24 years?
Why not? Why shouldn't I? I lost everything I had.
Well, why'd you redecorate the apartment houses if you planned to burn them down?
Simple. Gave me a good excuse. Could have all those things stored in the buildings. Paint, kerosene. Besides, you'd think I'd burn down the building right after I got done redecorating. Not a bad idea. Worked pretty good, didn't it?
Yeah, you're going to jail. You figure.
The story you have just heard was true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On August 18th, trial was held in Superior Court, Department 86, City and County of Los Angeles, State of California. In a moment, the results of that trial.
And now, here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you, George Fenneman. Friends, comparisons are often very helpful in modern police work. Now, for instance, a suspect may be identified by comparing his M.O., or method of operation, with the known facts of a case. Comparisons are important to you in choosing your king-size cigarette. Compare Fatima for quality. You'll find Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection. Cools the smoke for your protection. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size. And you get an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality. Buy Fatima. I'm convinced that you'll agree Fatima is the best of all king-size cigarettes.
Edward John Daniels was tried and convicted of 2 counts of conspiracy and 1 count of arson and received the sentence as prescribed by law. Conspiracy is punishable by imprisonment in the state penitentiary for not more than 2 years. Arson is punishable by a prison term of not less than 1 or more than 5 years. Daniels' accomplice, Oliver Randall, was examined by 3 psychiatrists appointed by the court and was found to be mentally incompetent. He was placed in a state hospital for the mentally deficient. The charge of assault with a deadly weapon against Edward Daniels was dismissed. You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department. Technical advisors, Captain Jack Donahoe, Sergeant Marty Wynn, Sergeant Vance Brasher. Heard tonight were Barney Phillips and Vic Perrin. Script by Jim Moser. Music by Walter Schumann. Hal Gibney speaking.
Fatima Cigarettes, best of all king-size cigarettes, has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles.
Now, it's Counter Spy on NBC.
My name's Regan. I work for Anthony J. Lyon, International Detective Bureau. They call me the Lion's Eye.
Wednesday at 9, and CBS brings you Jeff Regan, Investigator, starring Frank Graham as Regan with Frank Nelson as Anthony J. Lyon. So stand by for mystery and suspense and adventure in tonight's story of Some Enchanted Carhop.
It was just an ordinary drive-in hamburger joint on Vermont off Sunset, but they called it Hamburger Heaven. And just to carry out the idea, they'd hired 6 angels to wait on cars. 3 blondes, a redhead, and 2 brunettes. I was lucky. I drew the redhead. Only she didn't serve up what I ordered. All she brought me was trouble. The whole thing started when there were only 8 more shopping days until Christmas. I fought my way through the necktie and sock set, and by the time I reached the office, I was ready to start celebrating New Year's. But my boss, the Lion, had other ideas. When I walked in, all 280 pounds of him was up on an office stool. He was tacking a dried-up sprig of mistletoe over the door.
Jeffrey, my boy, come in. The festive season is at hand.
How's that again?
I said the festive season is at hand. I'm filled overflowing with the Yuletide spirit.
Yeah? Well, you better take those nails out of your teeth before you spring a leak.
Oh, yes. Yeah, guess you're right, my boy. I got carried away.
Yeah, sure. You and Tiny Tim. We're expecting women clients?
Women clients? Oh, you mean the mistletoe. Well, Jeffrey, you never can tell when a sweet young thing might accidentally happen in.
Stop drooling, Fatso. You dropped out of a mistletoe set 50 pounds ago.
Well, maybe so. But I still believe in Santa Claus. Yeah. Now, where was I?
You were up on the stool with berries in your hair.
No, I mean about the new client. What have I told you so far?
That the festive season is at hand?
Huh? Oh, then I haven't told you about our new client. His name is Ward Hamilton, Jeffrey. He was in just a few minutes ago. Fine figure of a man. Well-dressed, distinguished, and prosperous.
That explains the Christmas spirit. How much?
Jeffrey, the Christmas spirit cannot be measured in terms of money. This is the time of goodwill toward men of unselfish devotion.
Sure. How much unselfish devotion did he buy?
$50 worth. It's something about his niece or daughter or some friend or something.
What about them?
Well, it seems this girl's been receiving packages, flowers, candy, that sort of thing.
Well, what's so mysterious about that? Doesn't she know it's Christmas?
Well, for some reason or other, Ward Hamilton says she's worried about them. He'll tell you all about it when you see him. The address is on the desk. It's out on Iredell Road in North Hollywood.
So I find the Santa Claus that's been sending the packages.
Say, that's right. This case does fit right in with the season, doesn't it?
Sure. And Merry Christmas to you, too, Fatso. That started it. I hopped in my sleigh and headed my reindeer out over Cahuenga Pass. Iredell Road was twin rows of California bungalows with Christmas decorations strung out in front. All except one house. It was the address Lion had given me. Redwood front on the usual cream-colored stucco. White ranch-type fence, swimming pool in the backyard. No Christmas anywhere. Behind the fence, a big Dalmatian wagged his tail and grinned at me in a nice, friendly sort of way. Only he was growling when he did it. I circled wide and made the porch, but I didn't get as far as the doorbell.
What do you want?
Mr. Hamilton? I'm Regan, International.
Regan? Oh, yes, the detective. Come in, Mr. Regan, come in.
He was big and gray-haired, the man of distinction. But what he had in his hand wasn't a glass. It was a whip. Black, 10 feet long, with lead weights at the tip.
In here. I appreciate your coming right out, Mr. Regan. I like to get prompt action.
Is that what you use that for?
Well, oh, the whip. No, just a hobby of mine. I practice hitting toy ducks floating in the swimming pool.
Oh, nice way to get use out of your pool during the winter season.
Well, yes. Never mind that. Sit down, Mr. Regan. I want to tell you about Mary.
That's the niece.
Niece? No relation. I'm a close friend of her family's. Her parents died several years ago. There was no one else, so I've tried to take over the reins and help the girl along. It hasn't been easy.
She isn't broken to harness.
It's a nice metaphor, but it doesn't fit. Not at all. Mary Winter is a strange girl. Very strange.
She's the shy, retiring type.
Ah, I see. The detective training. You're thinking ahead, assuming that she's not attractive to men. Nothing could be further from the truth. She's a lovely girl. Very lovely. Auburn hair, green eyes, fine, firm, youthful figure. Desirable is the word, Mr. Regan. Desirable. You understand what I mean?
You make it pretty clear. So, that brings us to the anonymous packages.
For almost 6 weeks, someone has been sending Mary gifts, almost every day. Flowers, candy, novelties, that sort of thing. No name, no indication where they come from.
Mary has no idea either?
No. But she's reacted to them badly. They're making her nervous, upset. There's something I can't afford to have happen.
Come again?
Mr. Regan, I can observe that there's little use in trying to keep anything back from you. My interest in the package matter is because of money.
Now the story begins to make sense.
Mary is strange. Perhaps I should have said peculiar. Her aversion to men is almost, well, I've been sending her to a Mr. Farthing, a human relations counselor.
A psychologist?
Something like that.
And it costs money?
Yes, it costs money. The more delay in cure, the more it costs. Frankly, Mr. Regan, I'm tired of the obligation.
She work?
Yes. She works at one of those drive-in stands, Carhop.
Something wrong with that?
The place is called Hamburger Heaven, Mr. Regan.
And you want me to find the guy who sends the packages so he'll marry her, or so you can get rid of him?
It works the same either way. You'll take the job, Mr. Regan?
Sure. I'll find your guy. Maybe he'll look good under your Christmas tree. Ward Hamilton gave me the girl's address in Hollywood. It was a tired stucco 4 flat just off Kingsley, the home of Mary Winter, the girl who hated men. And then it was too easy. Standing out front near the curb was a little man in a trench coat. He carried an umbrella over his arm, and he paced up and down, watching the apartment. That was too good a bet to pass up. You going somewhere?
I beg your pardon?
Someone you know lives in there?
Why, that's none of your business, sir.
The name of the friend wouldn't be Mary Winter.
Get out of my way.
That's what I thought. Hold it.
Let go of my arm. Let go, I say.
Why are you watching Mary Winter's apartment?
I warned you. Let go. Let
Answer
go.
me.
Very well. I'll answer you.
The umbrella in his hand came down on my wrist, and he broke for the corner. By the time I turned, he was out of sight. On the ground, broken, was the little man's umbrella. I picked it up. Real break. Name engraved on the handle. In nice big gold letters, it said, Smith. I headed for Mary Winter's apartment. I knocked, and nothing happened. Knocked again. The radio in the room told me somebody was in and liked their music loud. I tried the door, and it worked. I stuck my head in to look around. A redhead came in from another room, in slacks and halter. She saw me. She dived for the closet and came out wearing a coat. Then she snapped off the radio.
Get out of here!
Look, I tried knocking, but...
Get out before I call the police!
The name's Regan. Ward Hamilton sent me.
You're lying. You're trying to trick me.
Phone him. He'll tell you.
What do you want?
About the presents you've been getting. Tell me.
I'm not sure. I can't trust you.
Look, for the last time, I'm supposed to find out who's sending them. Either you help or you don't. Now, take your choice.
All right. I'll listen. But don't you come a step closer.
I sat down. One corner of the room. Redhead, other corner. She was tall, graceful, beautiful. Everything a guy could want. Except for the look in her eyes. Scared, hunted. I waited for her to start it.
They began several weeks ago. The presents. I don't know who is sending them or why, but
Any card? Identification?
No, nothing.
You sure?
You think I'd accept gifts from a stranger?
Take it easy. Nobody said that. What did Farthing tell you?
Farthing?
The human relations counselor you go to.
Oh, you know about that?
Yeah, I know about that. What did he say?
That I shouldn't worry. That I should find out.
That all?
Oh, you don't understand. You're like all of them. Get out of here.
One question. You know a little guy about 30 carries an umbrella, wears a trench coat, shy?
No.
Are you sure? Think. A little guy.
No, I don't know him. I've never met him in my life. Get out!
I left the redhead sobbing softly to herself. Maybe a lot of flowers and candy would be kind of nice to a lot of people during Christmas, but not to Mary Winter. She was mixed up, inside and out. I headed back to my car, and then I was mixed up. It had looked easy until I got to my car. That's when I got complications. A big complication. Fat, 40, with a gun.
Get in, Shamus.
Now what?
Your choice, Shamus.
Like what?
The winter dame,
Your property?
Not my type.
Belong to the boss?
Question, Shamus,
Beat it, will you?
I'm not through with you.
Okay, get through.
Stay away from Mary Winter or you get trouble. Real bad trouble. Any questions now, Shamus?
Yeah. Who pays you?
You shouldn't have asked that question.
It looked like it was going to be a real holiday season. Brotherly love all over the place. The next stop was a man named Mr. Farthing. Only the sign on the door said John J. Farthing, Human Relations Counselor. It was a plush layout. Waiting room the size of a box top. Rich, solid, lined with deep green leather chairs, brass studs. On the wall, Van Gogh, Gauguin, that kind of stuff. The receptionist was out, and I took a crack at the thick mahogany door.
Yes, come in, please. What may I do for you, sir?
The name's Regan, international detective.
Oh, sit down, Mr. Regan. Now, is something troubling you?
Girl named Winter, Mary Winter.
Go on, Mr. Regan.
She's a patient of yours?
Why do you ask?
A couple of questions about her.
I see.
Since you know her background, I thought you could fill me in on a few things. I said...
I heard you, Mr. Regan.
Well?
Perhaps, sir, you're aware of the nature of my work. Since I assume you're an intelligent man, I don't believe it's necessary to be much more explicit than that.
Try it for size.
Very well. Cigarette, Mr. Regan?
Thanks.
There is in existence a code of ethics. Some practitioners call it the Hippocratic Oath. I'm not a doctor, as you know, yet I, too, Mr. Regan, have a moral code.
I'm listening.
Nothing in my code, either morally, ethically, or in any other way, allows me to discuss the affairs of my patients. Is that clear?
Yeah. That's clear.
I'm sorry I can't assist you in whatever it is you're trying to do, Mr. Regan. I'd like to help, but as you see, my hands are tied.
That makes two of us. Thanks. Thanks a lot. Mr. Farthing, gray suit, ivory cigarette holder, and gold cufflinks, stood up and shook hands solemnly. I left. He'd given me nothing. And there was only one thing wrong with that. Mr. Farthing was right. I decided to check in with my boss, Anthony J. Lyon.
The International Detective Agency, Anthony...
Save it for the customers, Fatso.
Jeffrey, where have you been?
Look, I just started this business 2 hours ago. What's eating you?
Just this. I have here in my office with me a young man. He has an interesting story, Jeffrey. It seems he's been sending gifts to one Mary Winter.
What?
That's correct, Regan, the man you're supposed to be looking for. Well, don't just stand there. Get over here at once. This young man can't wait all day for lazy detectives. And besides, he needs help.
He needs help.
Yeah, that's right, Jeffrey. The man you were supposed to find. His life's in danger.
This is CBS, and you're listening to Jeff Regan, Investigator, and tonight's adventure, Some Enchanted Carhop.
It started when a guy named Ward Hamilton hired the Lion and me to find out who was sending packages to a Carhop named Mary Winter. I met a little guy with an umbrella and a big guy with a gun, and a human relations counselor who called himself Mr. Farthing. Then I phoned my boss, Anthony J. Lyon, and found the mysterious Santa Claus who'd been sending the girl gifts had walked right into our office. When I got there, I found the Lion sitting with his fingertips touching as he talked to the man across the desk from him. Like I guessed, it was the same guy I'd seen outside Mary Winter's apartment. The little guy, 30, trench coat, and nervous.
Jeffrey, come in. I want you to meet our new client, Mr. Smith. Mr. Ernest Smith. He's in trouble.
Well, if he isn't, he should be.
Jeffrey, what on earth do you mean?
I found your Mr. Smith outside the girl's apartment. He wasn't looking for frost on those windows.
No, Mr. Regan. That's...
What Mr. Smith is trying to say, Jeffrey, is that that's not true. Mr. Smith is in real trouble.
You sell it to him?
Jeffrey, how can you say such a thing? Mr. Smith feels his life is in danger, hence he has retained us to act in his behalf.
That's true, Mr. Regan. I'll admit I sent the gifts to Miss Winter. I didn't realize, I didn't know...
Get to the point.
Now I'm afraid. Since I saw you this afternoon, someone's following me.
Fat guy, big coat.
Yes. I came here for help. Someone doesn't like my sending the gifts.
Well, that's real bright. Well, you can start with Mary Winter.
She doesn't like them, Mr. Regan?
Then there's a guy named Hamilton.
She's married?
We call him a guardian, family friend.
Oh.
Finish your story.
I like Miss Winter. I wanted to do something for her.
So you've been sending her anonymous presents for almost 6 weeks. Isn't that carrying the Christmas spirit too far?
Well, I like her. That's not abnormal, is it, Mr. Regan?
Yeah, of course not, Mr. Smith.
You keep out of this, Fatso.
Yeah, but Jeffrey, our client...
We got another client, named Hamilton, remember? Besides, you haven't met the girl.
Neither have I.
What?
I've never met Mary Winter. Is that abnormal, Mr. Regan? Oh, dear. Dear, perhaps I'm sicker than Mr. Farthing told me.
Say that again?
Mr. Farthing, my human relations counselor, he takes care of me.
Oh, wait a minute. Maybe this is going to add up. You've never met Mary Winter?
No.
No, but you've seen her. You've seen her in the waiting room of Farthing's office.
Why, Mr. Regan, how on earth did you guess? That's exactly it. She was reading a copy of Reader's Digest, and I was reading an old National Geographic. It was a fall...
Never mind. Well, Lion, I think that wraps that up.
Jeffrey, what do you mean?
Mary Winter is afraid of unknown guy sending packages. Unknown guy turns out to be Smith. Take Smith to Mary, show her he's harmless. Collect our fee.
Yeah, but Jeffrey, what about Mr. Smith? What about the man who's following him?
Maybe he just imagined it. Come on, Smith. We're going to visit a redhead. The Lion didn't believe Smith imagined it any more than I did. But he only sputtered, and I loaded Smith into the car and headed out to Mary Winter's apartment. It looked simple, then, like a glass of mild eggnog. What I didn't know was that somebody had slipped me a zombie. It was turning dark when we pulled up in front of the place. Smith stayed at my heels like a sheepdog. I knocked. This time she opened the door.
Oh, Mr. Regan, what are you doing here?
Brought your Christmas present. Only this one's harmless.
Oh, no.
Take it easy, sweetheart. Just a guy named Smith. You might even like him.
No, please go away. Please go away.
Smith and I walked on in, and Mary backed into a chair in the far corner of the room. She and Smith looked at each other and didn't say anything, so I waited for the sparks to die out of her eyes. But they didn't. There was something else on her mind.
This is the man who sent the packages.
You guessed it. Smith, Mary Winter. Mary Winter, Smith.
Get him out of here!
Huh?
I said get him out of here before he kills me.
Oh, no.
Sit down. Now, just a minute, lady. He won't hurt anybody. Just take it easy, will you? Just take quiet.
That's what you're saying.
Oh, no, I
Now,
didn't
listen,
hurt.
sweetheart. Wait a minute. It's Christmas. You've heard of that, I think, haven't you? People send presents to each other because it makes them feel good. Now, Smith sent you presents for the same reason.
He's going to kill me. You're like he is, trying to trap me.
Oh, that does it.
All right. Look at this.
What, a card?
It came in a box of flowers. Was delivered here to my apartment tonight.
Each man kills the thing he loves.
Well, Regan, try and explain that. Try and...
Shut up. Did you send this, Smith?
No, Mr. Regan. I didn't send it. I sent flowers and candy and nice things.
Mr. Regan, at the window!
I left them with their mouths open and ran for the hall, and then outside. The girl may have had an overworked imagination, but her mind didn't knock over that garbage can. It was dark and peaceful and still outside. Me and a half moon and nobody else. And then I saw him, thick-set, crouched, moving away from the window. I dove after him. We went down together as his hand came out of his pocket. A heavy gray .45 got itself in my direction, and I grabbed at the wrist behind him. The gun fell into the rose bush, but he got to his feet.
I warned you once, Shamus. Stay away from that girl. Who said so? Never mind that now. Get off the case now, before it's too late. It'll only mean go.
Were you going to say trouble? The big guy was 200 pounds of unconscious as I bent over him. A heavy camel hair coat was wrapped around him. The same guy I'd seen before. I unbuttoned the coat, figuring some identification might help, only when it came open, I didn't need any more. He was wearing a tailored starched jacket. It wasn't the kind you see every day. It was white. That gave me the lead I needed, and I headed fast for my car. 10 minutes later, I stopped at the drugstore on my way out to the valley. I phoned the Lion and told him to check on Farthing. Then I headed the car out Cahuenga. The pass was crowded with home-from-work traffic. It took me 25 minutes to make Iredell Road and the home of Ward Hamilton. This time, the Dalmatian was out for the night. But Ward Hamilton wasn't. He opened the door.
Well, well, Mr. Regan, come in. You work late.
Our time clock's out of order.
Oh, perhaps you'd like one for Christmas.
No, thanks. Wouldn't fit in my sock.
Well, Mr. Regan, I take it by this visit that you have good news for me.
Call it that.
You know who's been sending the girl those gifts?
Guy named Smith.
How's that again?
Smith, Ernest Smith. His birth certificate says.
I'm afraid I've never heard of him, Mr. Regan.
He saw Mary in the waiting room of Farthing's office. Never met her. Shy little guy.
Well, now isn't that something? Well, I must say, Mr. Regan, you did a remarkably fast job.
There's something else you ought to know, Hamilton. Chances are Farthing's a phony.
Mr. Farthing?
Looks like.
Why, it seems absurd.
Just thought I'd let you know. Want me to go on with the case?
What do you mean, Mr. Regan?
I found your guy, Smith. That's what you hired me for. And when I get to Farthing, he'll sing like a prima donna.
Sing?
Talk.
Well, then keep going.
Okay, Hamilton. It's your money.
It's your life, Mr. Regan. Be careful.
I made a fast phone call to the Lion on my way back into town, and that tied it up. Farthing was working late when I got there, only when he looked up and saw me, he wasn't happy.
What do you want?
Conversation, a lot of it.
Mr. Regan, I must ask why you've come to my office at this hour.
I told you, for conversation.
Then I may regard this whole thing as a sort of joke?
Maybe. Only the laughs you'll get wouldn't get by even on television.
I demand an explanation of your attitude.
Fair enough. Start with your name. Not Farthing, it's Farnham, Howard Farnham. You want more?
Where did you get that?
I had a phone conversation with my boss. He's got ways of getting things. Like your record. 5 arrest bunco, 1 arrest forgery, 1 arrest fraud.
No conviction.
You were lucky. Maybe you won't be this time.
You haven't got anything on me, Regan?
How about blackmail?
Not a chance.
Maybe not yet. Only you were getting set for a job. I believe the guy's name was Hamilton.
You can't prove it.
Well, it was your mug, the big guy in the white jacket. He meant business. Does he do your legwork?
Listen, Regan, you can't pin blackmail on me. Sure, maybe I had ideas, but I don't claim I'm a doctor. I don't hand out any pills. Just advice, Regan. That's all, just advice.
That's too bad. You know, there are a lot of people that take phonies like you seriously, Farnham. A lot of people that could use advice. Real advice.
Mine's real. They say, should I marry him? And I say yes or no, depending...
On how much there is in it for you.
What do you want from me, Regan?
Who paid you to put the B on Mary Winter?
Never mind, Farthing. You won't have to answer that.
Come on in, Hamilton. I've been waiting for you.
You're bragging, Mr. Regan.
It made sense if I could get you to join Farthing and me. You might have something to say. You're showing up, check my story.
What story?
Like this. Man named Hamilton's supposed to look out for a young redhead named Mary Winter. Only Hamilton takes one look at this number and suddenly he's not fatherly anymore. He decides to move in for himself.
It's absurd.
Is it? You convinced the girl she couldn't trust any man in the world but you. Should have been the other way around. You're the one she couldn't trust. Isn't that right, Farthing?
Leave me out of this, Regan. I run a legitimate business.
Leave you out? Well, that wouldn't be fair. You were the guy Hamilton came to with money. He paid you to tell Mary Winter who was the man for her. Am I right, Farthing?
You're lying, Regan.
No, I'm not. Everything worked fine until along came a nice, shy little guy with an umbrella, Mr. Smith. Met Mary in Farthing's waiting room, starting sending her presents. You know, that must have really stopped you, Hamilton, trying to figure out who was cutting in on your Romeo act.
Regan, I've had enough out of you. I thought you were getting nosy.
You hired me to find the guy, and I did. End of story. Except if anybody should happen to tell Mary Winter what kind of a guy you really are, Hamilton, you might suddenly find yourself out of a lifetime career.
You'll never tell her, Regan. I'll see to that.
Forget one item. For a last touch, you send Mary a threatening note. Really put the pressure on. You're washed up, Hamilton.
This revolver says I'm not, Mr. Regan. Well, then, come over here, out of the way. We're going to take care of Mr. Regan.
Self-defense, not a chance with Farthing's record. Am I right, Farnham?
Do as I say, Farthing.
Go ahead, Farnham, go ahead. Murder will look good on your list.
I won't play ball, Hamilton. I told the girl what you wanted, but I'm not in this. It's your fight.
I can make it yours.
Don't try it.
I am as good with this gun, gentlemen, as I am with a whip. Farnham, watch out.
Farnham ducked as I hit Hamilton's wrist. The bullet buried itself in the desk top, and the gun hit the floor. I got the gun as Hamilton moved in fast. Only what he got for his trouble was the barrel across his head. Farnham crawled up to his chair, sat down, puffing. I let him catch his breath. When I waved the gun in his direction, he didn't mind phoning the police. The heavy guy in the white jacket showed up bright and early for work the next morning, and the cop greeted him with a pair of handcuffs. He got off with assault and battery, and Farnham, alias Farthing, made the blotter for a light charge. Hamilton wasn't that lucky. His read assault with intent to kill. It was noon when I got to the Lion's office. He was admiring the Christmas tree stuck in the corner. And from the sounds that came out of his mouth, it looked like his holiday fever was becoming serious.
Nowhere. Bone is the king of... Oh, hello, Jeffrey.
They're looking for a replacement for Vaughn Monroe?
Jeffrey, how unkind. It's the season for songs. Sunday is Christmas, my boy.
And today is payday.
So it is. Well, perhaps I could manage a small token, a sign of my gratitude.
Thanks.
Yeah, by the way, what about Mary Winter, the Carhop? How is the girl, Jeffrey?
Oh, I left her with Smith last night when I went after Farthing's mug.
Jeffrey, you didn't. Alone together? And that girl hating all men, and that boy shy, backwards? Jeffrey, how could you? How cruel.
It's too late now, Lion. Maybe we'll read about it in the afternoon paper.
Double murder.
Double hamburger.
What did you say?
I drove by Mary's drive-in this morning. There was a car parked there.
Jeffrey, you mean...
Little guy behind the wheel, trench coat, umbrella. He looked an awful lot like our boy Smith.
Then you talked to them?
For a minute.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Tell me, Jeffrey, tell me. What did Mary say?
She said, with or without onions. Merry Christmas, Lion.
Merry Christmas, Jeffrey.
Jeff Regan, Investigator, is written by William Frug and William Fifield, produced by Sterling Tracy, directed by Gordon T. Hughes, and stars Frank Graham as Regan with Frank Nelson as Anthony J. Lyon. Original music is by Dick Arant. Jeff Regan, Investigator, is heard each week at the same time over CBS. Bob Stevenson speaking and inviting you to be with us again next week at this same time for Jeff Regan, Investigator. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
The story you are about to hear is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Fatima Cigarettes, best of all king-size cigarettes, brings you Dragnet on both radio and television.
You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned a robbery detail. 2 convicts escaped from the state penitentiary. They're heading for your city. They're armed. They've boasted they won't be taken alive. Your job? Get them.
In Fatima, the difference is quality.
Yes, in Fatima, the difference is quality.
Prove it yourself today. Compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
1. Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
2. Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
3. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
And in Fatima, you get an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality.
Definitely the best quality in its class, but the same price as the cigarette you're now smoking.
Buy Fatima in the bright sunny yellow pack. Best of all king-size cigarettes.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Wednesday, October 6th. It was cloudy in Los Angeles. We were working the day watch out of robbery detail. My partner's Ed Jacobs. The boss is Captain Didion. My name's Friday. We were on the way out from the office, and it was 2:40 p.m. when we got to Kesterson Boulevard. Number 1256.
Sounds like she's having a party, huh?
Yeah, try it again, huh? Maybe they can't hear it inside.
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Police officers, ma'am. You Ruth Thompson?
Yes, that's right. What is it?
Well, my name's Friday. This is my partner, Sergeant Jacobs, Central Robbery. We'd like to talk to you a few minutes if we could.
Well, I have a party going on right now. A few of my friends are over. What'd you want, Sergeant?
About an Andy Powell, Miss Thompson. I understand you know him?
I did know him, yes. I haven't seen him for a long time, 3 or 4 years anyway.
Mind if we ask a few questions about him? Won't take long.
All right. Come in, please.
Thank you. We're sorry to disturb you, ma'am. It's pretty important or we wouldn't hold you up.
It's all right. Down the hall here.
All right.
We can talk in the kitchen if you don't mind. It's my girlfriend's birthday today, so it'd be nice to have a little party for her.
Oh, I see.
Chair there, if you like. Oh, here, let me wipe it off. You spilled a drink on it. It's probably Danny who spilled the drink.
Suppose you know about Andy Powell, Miss Thompson, what happened this morning?
What's that?
About Andy Powell. You heard what happened this morning?
Just what I read in the morning paper. They said he broke out of San Quentin, another man with him. It's true, then? He did break out?
Yes, ma'am. That's the information we have. There's an all-points bulletin out on him.
Well, I don't want to get involved in it. It's none of my business. Andy doesn't mean anything to me.
Well, at the time he was sent up, you were engaged to Powell. Is that right?
Yes, but that was before he got into trouble, before he went to San Quentin. I saw him after the trial. I told him how I felt about it. I told him it wasn't any use.
You mean you called it off, that is?
There wasn't much else to do. It was robbery, 5 years to life. It wasn't the first time either. Andy knew it'd be a long time, so die. Really, I had to tell him. I had to call it off.
We understand you were on Powell's correspondence list while he was up at Quentin. You wrote to him, did you?
Yes, the first couple of months. We haven't written lately, though. There wasn't any point to it, no point at all.
Well, when was the last time you heard from Powell, Miss Thompson? The last time you wrote to him?
Oh, 8 or 10 months. At least that. As I say, there wasn't much sense in going on. Andy knew he was in there for a long time. He couldn't expect me to wait all that time. Matter of fact, he said he didn't expect it. He told me that.
You been up to visit Powell recently, Miss Thompson?
No, I haven't.
Well, then you haven't seen him since he went up to Quentin. You'll swear to that?
Why do I have to swear to it? I already told you. Andy doesn't mean anything to me. It didn't make sense. It's all over. I'm not even a relative. Why do I have to swear to anything?
You haven't seen Powell since he went up to Quentin, is that right?
Miss Thompson, is that right?
What if I saw him or if I didn't see him? What difference does it make? It's none of my business.
Oh, did you see him, Miss Thompson?
What difference does it make? I don't have anything to do with him. He doesn't mean anything to me. I told you.
Did you see him?
This morning.
When?
Late this morning, about 10:30.
Was he alone?
No, another man was with him.
Who was the other man? You recognize him?
Bert Selby. It's the way he introduced him. He didn't try to hide it. Some fellow he broke out of jail with.
What'd they want? Why were they here?
Clothes, money. Looked like the devil, both of them. Terrible.
What'd you give them?
They asked for him. Not that silly. Didn't trust me any more than they trust you. And he had a knife. I tried to tell him I didn't have any money. He didn't believe me. He came at me with that knife. I gave him the money.
How much?
About $17, $18, some loose change. They emptied my purse. They took it all.
Anything else?
Clothes, a couple of suits of my father's. He died last year. They took his gun, too. I never thought Andy'd be that way. It was terrible.
What kind of a gun was it, Miss Thompson?
Colt revolver, 38, I think. They took that and the clothes and the money. It was about 10:30 this morning.
How come you didn't report that? You say you knew about the escape. You knew they were wanted, didn't you?
Why should I? They warned me about it. They threatened me. Said they'd come back and get me if I told the police. Look, I don't want to get mixed up in this. I'm engaged to a nice fellow now. We want to get married. I don't want to get mixed up in this. Andy Powell's nothing to me.
Did you watch the two men when they left the house here? And you noticed if they drove off in a car?
No, I didn't. I just shut the door and prayed I was rid of them. Took my money, food, my dad's clothes. Don't make it any tougher, huh? Please.
Well, it's not a question of that, ma'am. We have to find them. We're going to need all the cooperation we can get.
I told you everything I could, honestly. They said they'd come back and kill me if I even talked to you. I can't do any more. I sure hope you don't find him.
How's that?
And Andy went out the door. It's the last thing he said. He said if the cops ever found him, there was going to be a fight. Terrible look on his face.
Yeah.
He said you'd never take him alive.
The APB had come in a few minutes before 8 o'clock that morning. It was from the warden's office, San Quentin. The two suspects had been assigned to an early morning work detail at the penitentiary, and they were first reported missing at the 7 a.m. count. Number one suspect was Andrew A. Powell, WMA, 29 years, 5'9", 175 pounds. Brown hair, blue eyes, tan complexion. Suspect number two, Bertram O. Selby, WMA, 31 years, 5'11", 160 pounds, blonde hair, gray eyes, tan complexion. Both of them had long criminal records. Both of them had been serving time for armed robbery. They'd used guns before. We figured if they had to, they'd use them again. Before we left Powell's ex-girlfriend, Ruth Thompson, we called the office and arranged for a 24-hour stakeout on her home in case the escaped prisoners returned. We also made arrangements for a stakeout at the downtown restaurant where she was employed as cashier. We passed along the information which the Thompson girl had given us, and a broadcast and an APB was gotten out on the suspects. 4:05 p.m., Ed and I continued making the rounds of all the known friends and associates of the escaped prisoners. We failed to come up with any more leads. 5:50 p.m., we went back to the city hall.
Clouding up again, huh? Over there in the east?
Yeah, the paper says rain tonight and tomorrow. We can sure use it.
Oh, I can't.
What's the matter?
I haven't had a chance to get the shoemakers yet. Here. Look at that. Hole in my shoe. Been meaning to get them half-soled. I keep forgetting.
Yeah. Don't tell me that's the only pair of shoes you got.
No, I got another pair at home. They're not comfortable, though. Not broken in. What's the trouble with this job?
What do you mean?
Shoes. You get a new pair, start wearing them around, and it happens every time.
Huh?
No sooner get the tops broken in, the soles wear out. It's a vicious circle.
Yeah.
Hi. What's the word?
Oh, hi, Jess. Anything in the book for us, you know?
I don't know. I don't think so. I'll check it. How'd you two make out? Any luck?
Oh, not too bad, Jess. We know Powell and Selby were in town this morning. Good chance they're still here.
Mm-hmm.
Any kickback on that last all points we got out?
Well, nothing so far. Gaffney and Ricketts are running down a couple of possibles right now. One of them might pan out. Nothing in the book, Joe. We're clear. Just saying, Ed, on this Powell and Selby thing, got a couple of possibles we're checking on. Both calls came in the last hour. One was a holdup, Olympic near Vermont. Pawn shop there. Two men pulled it off, slugged the owner, took clothes, money, 12-gauge shotgun.
How about descriptions on the men?
Well, they seem to be fairly close. What I got over the phone, Gaffney and Ricketts are out talking to the victim. They took mugs of Powell and Selby along, waiting for their call back now. You said you had two calls. What was the other one? 211 and slugging out on Hollywood Boulevard, just above Western. A couple of thieves knocked over a dry goods store. Some take, clothes and money. Descriptions are pretty close there, too. Hollywood division's covering. Waiting for their call back. Does anyone want to smoke?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Here.
Thanks. Thompson girl's the only one who had anything, huh? None of the others could help you out? Yeah, that's about the size of it. Apparently Powell doesn't have too many connections in town. Selby has even less. No more than a dozen names on that list, were they, Joe? Friends, relatives?
An even dozen. A couple of bars Powell was known to hang out when he was in town. Checked them out, too. Nothing.
Yeah. Well, they sure made a beeline here after they broke Quentin. It's a good 500-mile stretch. If they don't have the connections here to help them, then what's the big attraction?
Yeah.
They could have some help lined up we don't know about. Somebody to hide them out, keep them in groceries for a while.
It's possible they're making a run for one of the border towns, Tijuana, Mexicali. Maybe Powell figured on more help from the Thompson girl. Clothes and money. Enough to get him and Selby over into Mexico, huh?
She said all they got was $17. Had to cut corners to make it on that. Robbery, Gonzalez. Oh, yeah, Jack. You sure? Yeah, okay, fine, thanks. Bye.
Who you got?
Jack Ricketts. He and Gaffney just finished talking to the owner of the pawn shop that was held up, the one on Olympic.
Yeah.
They gave him a handful of mugshots to check. He tabbed two of them, Powell and Selby.
6:30 p.m. A supplementary broadcast and an APB was gotten out on the two suspects, and the Record Bureau's photocopy room turned out 2,000 copies of Powell's and Selby's mugshot for distribution. At 9 p.m., a theater on Western Avenue was robbed of $192. Powell and Selby were again identified as the hold-up men. The robbery victim, the manager of the theater, said that both men were armed, one with a .38 revolver, the other with a sawed-off shotgun. Neither the manager nor the two witnesses were able to tell us how the thieves got away from the scene of the crime, if they were on foot or if they had a car. 11:20 p.m. A hotshot call came through on a holdup at a liquor store and delicatessen down on South Central Avenue. For the third time that night, Powell and Selby were identified from their mugshots as the holdup men. They'd used the same weapons, the revolver that they'd taken from the Thompson girls' home and the shotgun that they picked up in the robbery of the Olympic Boulevard pawn shop. Again, the victims were unable to tell us how the suspects got away, whether on foot or by car. Midnight, 1 a.m. There were still no replies to supplementary broadcasts and bulletins which had been gotten out. 1:25 a.m. Another hotshot call came through, this time on a holdup and a slugging at the 2050 Room, a small nightclub on West 9th Street. Ed and I handled the call. For the fourth time, the bandits were identified as Powell and Selby, and for the fourth time, they'd made good their escape. We interviewed the manager of the 2050 Room, a Herman Saunders.
Quite a few people in here at the time of the holdup, Mr. Saunders?
Yeah, good for Thursday night, 30 or 40 anyway. We sure left in a hurry. This is the second time this year we've been knocked over. Insurance company isn't going to like it too much.
Well, how much money did they take altogether, do you know?
A little less than $600 from the cash register, mostly currency, some rolls of dimes and quarters. Got another $150 from my wallet. That's about it. They didn't take anything from the customers.
Are you sure about that identification, are you? There's no chance of a mistake there?
I'm positive. I'd know Andy Powell anywhere. I should know him. Like I told you, he worked for me a year and a half.
I was here at 2050?
Yeah, he worked behind the bar. Good man, too. I don't get it at all.
You mean why it went bad?
Well, yeah, that, too. What I mean is if you're going to hold up a place, you don't pick a joint where everybody knows you. I spotted Andy as soon as I saw him at the bar. So did a couple of the waiters.
He wasn't wearing any kind of a mask? He didn't make any attempt to disguise himself?
No, stood there big as life, him and this other fella. Didn't waste any time either. They pulled the guns, lined up everybody in the place, and stood them against that wall over there. Real Wild West style. Took over the whole place. Acted real wild, Andy and this other fella. Must be crazy.
Nobody was hurt? Didn't slug anyone?
I slapped a few of the customers around. I thought for a while they were really going to get rough. They had us lined up against the wall. Andy was acting tough. Had this knife with him, good 4-inch blade. Went right down the line, jabbing people with it, threatening them. Must be out of his mind.
Now, you say he didn't take any money from the customers?
Yeah, that's right. They worked it pretty fast. Emptied the cash register, then my wallet. Then they beat it. Never so glad to see anybody go in my life.
Well, how'd they get away? Do you have any idea on that?
Old guy who sells papers down the corner, he says he thinks he saw a car pull away right after the stick-up. Said it was a blue sedan. Don't know how much stock you can put in it. The old man's eyes aren't what they used to be.
Did you know Powell pretty well when he was working here, Mr. Saunders? I mean, did you know any of his friends, people he used to run with?
No, I didn't know him that well. He worked for me, that's all. I still have his old address, the place he was living when he worked for me. I can get it if you want.
Yeah, if you would, please.
Sure, no trouble. I just don't get it. Don't get it at all. Of all the joints in town he could have held up, he had to pick mine, the one place he'd be recognized. You think he'd have better sense, wouldn't you?
You'd think so, yeah.
How'd I ever hire a guy as dumb as that Powell, holding up the place he worked for? Biggest mistake he ever made.
No, he made a bigger one yesterday.
Yeah, what was that?
When he broke prison. 2:05 a.m. Further investigation at the scene of the latest holdup failed to turn up any new leads. While Ed and I checked on Powell's former address, which we'd gotten from the owner of the 2050 Room, Gonzalez, Ricketts, and Gaffney continued checking the immediate neighborhood. In addition, a special detail from Metro Division was sent in to cover the entire area. The suspect's former address turned out to be a rooming house up on West Temple Street. The landlady remembered Andy Powell, but she had no forwarding address on him, and she could tell us nothing about his former friends and associates. We checked back with Gonzalez, Ricketts, and Gaffney, and they told us that besides the old newspaper vendor, the counterman at the coffee shop near the 2050 Room had also spotted a blue sedan leaving the vicinity of the nightclub shortly after the holdup. He was able to give them the make, the model, and a partial license number. A supplementary all points had been gotten out on it immediately, and the information relayed to DMV and auto theft detail. 3:10 a.m., Ed and I completed our assignment in the investigation and went back to the office to check for instructions from Captain Didion.
Can't see how we'd be much use out on the street the way things stand now, can you?
No, I don't.
Everything's covered I can think of. Supplementary all points is out. Detail from Metro's working in the neighborhood.
It's funny, isn't it?
What's that?
Well, this Andy Powell going back to that place he used to work and holding it up, that doesn't make any sense at all, does it?
That's for sure. Must have known somebody was going to recognize him. Couldn't have been a coincidence.
Well, there's only one way I can figure it. They don't care, either one of them. They got their money now, a car. They both got guns. They're out to go as far as they can.
Oh, hi, Jess. Hi. You just get back in?
Yeah. Hi, Joe.
Hi. You as tired as you sound?
Worse. Fair piece of news, though.
Yeah, what's that?
Powell and Selby, they just found their hideout.
After 3 hours of canvassing the general downtown area, particularly in the vicinity of the last holdup, a team of men working with a special detail from Metropolitan Division interviewed a desk clerk in a small hotel on South Broadway who recognized the suspect's mugshots. The two of them had registered early the morning before under the names J.E. Dennis and Harold Thompson, both from Fresno, California. The hotel room was searched and 2 San Quentin inmate uniforms were found stuffed under the mattress of the bed. After the room was processed for fingerprints, there was no doubt that the recent occupants were Powell and Selby. The clerk had no idea when they were supposed to return. The hotel was staked out immediately, and the citywide search for the escaped prisoners went on. The following day, Thursday, October 7th, 11:30 a.m., still no sign of the suspects, no further reports or leads as to their whereabouts. The search went on. Ed and I signed back in at the office. 10 minutes later, a long-distance phone call came in for us.
When was that, Mort? What's that? Yeah, close enough, right? We'll let you know, yeah. Bye. Mort Gear down to San Diego.
Yeah, what do you want?
One of the traffic officers was checking a car about 8 o'clock this morning, 586 parking. Blue sedan, fits close to the description of the escape car.
Well, it's a pretty common model, isn't it? Did he say anything else?
Traffic man checked the inside of the car, glove compartment, found half a dozen rolls of dimes and quarters, same name stamped on all of them.
Yeah.
2050 room.
You are listening to Dragnet, authentic stories of your police force in action.
Comparison proves Fatima quality. Prove Fatima quality yourself today.
Compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
1. Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
2. Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
3. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
And in Fatima, you get an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality.
Friends, to show our confidence in Fatima, we make this money-back guarantee. Buy a pack of Fatimas. Enjoy Fatima quality, extra mildness, and superbly blended tobaccos. If you're not convinced Fatima is better than the king-size cigarette you're now smoking, just return the pack and the unsmoked Fatimas by August 1st, 1952, for your money back plus postage. Fatima, Box 37, New York 1.
Remember, because of its quality, its extra mildness, its better flavor and aroma, more smokers now insist on Fatima than ever before.
Insist on the best. Fatima, extra mild and soothing, plus the added protection of Fatima quality. Smoke Fatima. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
October 7th, Thursday, 1 p.m. After we got the report from Lieutenant Mort Gear that the escape car, along with a few dollars of the stolen money, had been located in San Diego that morning, Ed and I had a meeting with Captain Didion. It was beginning to look like our first hunch was right. Powell and Selby's 24-hour campaign of holdups in the Los Angeles area had netted them a fresh change of clothes and more than enough money to live on for a while. With the locating of the escape car in San Diego, it looked like the suspects were apparently taking the next logical step, a fast move over the international border into Mexico, a distance of less than 20 miles from San Diego. Probably they figured once over the line they had a good chance of losing themselves. 1:40 p.m. On Captain Didion's orders, Jess Gonzalez, Ed, and I got in the car and headed south for San Diego with a supply of mugshots of the escaped prisoners. We got there a few minutes after 4 p.m. We went directly to the San Diego PD, where we contacted Sergeant Tony McGuire, robbery detail.
Tough week, huh? Hear they've been driving you crazy up there. Just about, Tony. 4 robberies in 24 hours, giving us a run. How about Mort Gear? You around?
Yeah, he just went down the hall, Jess. Ought to be back in a minute. Why don't you fellas sit down?
Thanks very much. What's the latest, Tony? Anything since you picked up that blue sedan?
No, not much. Got the car in the impound, had it dusted for prints. We made them all right, both sets, Powell and Selby.
No sign of them around town?
No, I got it pretty well covered, too. Not a trace.
We're in a good spot to make it over into Mexico.
Hate to disappoint you.
What do you mean?
We think they already made it.
At 6 o'clock that night, Gonzalez, Ed, and I, together with Lieutenant Gear, Tony McGuire, and Sergeants Gayton and Schultz, drove south from San Diego to the international line. We left mug shots of Powell and Selby with the immigration officers at the entry gate. Then we drove into the town of Tijuana, contacted the local commandant of police, and he promised us full cooperation. He assigned a special detail of his men to work with us in covering the town. At 8 p.m., the block-by-block canvass of the city began. Every back alley, every bar, every restaurant, every hotel, they were all checked. The tourist attractions, the souvenir stands, the nightclubs, the highlight pavilion. We went straight through on it, 8 o'clock that night until 5 o'clock the next morning. All it got us was sore feet and a mediocre lead from a native taxi driver. After being shown the mug shots, he told one of the Mexican officers in the detail that about noon that day, he'd picked up 2 Americans resembling Powell and Selby and driven them to the town of Tecate, another Mexican tourist spot about 25 miles to the east. 10:30 a.m. We drove over and checked with the police at Tecate, and they told us that 2 Americans had arrived in the town that morning. He invited Jess Gonzalez to go along with the 3 of his men to the hotel where the men were supposed to be staying. Ed and I waited in the office. Hi, Jess. What do you got?
Oh, not much. Went over to the hotel. The 2 men weren't there. Desk clerk says they told him they were driving out to a little village about a mile from here.
Mm-hmm.
Police commandant asked me to come back here and wait. Said he and his men would drive out to the village and check the men out.
That seems a little funny, doesn't it?
Well, he didn't invite me to come along. It's not a good idea to push him. I mean, after all, it's his jurisdiction.
Yeah.
We're supposed to wait here till they get back? Yeah. I'm right to him now. Si, policia? Yeah. Si. About half an hour, yes, sir. All right, gracias. Goodbye, si. The commandant, he and his men found the 2 Americans.
Yeah?
No go. They're not Powell and Selby.
Half an hour later, the police commandant of Tecate returned to the station along with his men and the 2 American tourists in question. One look at them, and we knew we'd made the trip from Tijuana for nothing. Except for their build and the color of their hair, the 2 Americans bore little or no resemblance to Powell and Selby. 2:30 p.m. We headed back for Tijuana, and we checked in with Mort Gear and the rest of the men. While we'd been gone, they'd chased down half a dozen leads, but none of them had panned out. The rest of the afternoon, we covered the racetrack at Agua Caliente and distributed mugshots of the suspects to all track police officers. The mutual windows were covered, and also the foreign book. No luck. The 6 of us took time out for a bite of supper, and we talked it over. Logically, the next place in line to cover was either the fishing town of Ensenada on the coast or the city of Mexicali further inland. We decided to try Ensenada first. 7:30 that night, we checked in at the Ensenada police station where we met with the local sub-commandant, Pedro Martinez. Like the other commandants in Tijuana and Tecate, he offered full cooperation and gave us a special detail of men to aid in the search. We gave him a supply of mugshots of the 2 convicts to distribute among his men.
Here you are, sir. These are pictures of one of them, Andrew Powell. This one here is the other man, Bert Selby.
All right, thank you.
Juan?
Sí. ¿Qué es? These pictures, Juan. Criminals. They're for distribution to the men, 1 each.
Sí. ¿Estos son los hombres?
Sí, ¿por qué?
Un momento.
Sí. Excuse me, officers.
Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead.
¿Qué pasa?
Joe, what is it? What's got me? I don't know.
See the look on his face when the chief showed him the mugshots?
Well, he's got something on his mind. Let's wait a minute.
Officers, I hope you will excuse me.
Yes, sir. Anything wrong?
My assistant, Teniente San Felipe. He says he knows the pictures of these men.
Oh, how's that?
He says he saw these men this morning here in Ensenada.
You ain't sure about that, is he?
Yes, sir. He says he's sure. He says the 2 men were here last night, right here in the station.
You mean your men booked them in? They committed some kind of crime?
Oh, no, sir. They came in to report a crime.
8:20 p.m. On further questioning, the assistant to the Ensenada commandant of police told us that the night before, 2 men answering Powell and Selby's description had come in to file a complaint at the central police station. They charged that they'd had their pockets picked at a local bar while they were under the influence of alcohol. The 2 complainants, who matched Powell's and Selby's descriptions perfectly, signed themselves J.E. Dennis and Harold Thompson, both from Fresno, California, the same names and addresses that had been used by the occupants of the Southside Los Angeles hotel room where the discarded prison uniforms had been found a day and a half before. After a brief talk with the police commandant, he dispatched a special detail to go out and pick up the 2 men registered as Dennis and Thompson at a motel near the south end of the city. At the Commandant's request, we remained at the office. 9 p.m., 9:30. The detail assigned to the job returned, but with only one of the suspects with him, Andrew Powell. While resisting arrest, the other suspect, identified as Selby, received a cut forehead and was being taken to a local clinic for treatment. The Commandant briefed us on what had happened.
Their rooms were searched, Officer Friday. Some money was found, also 2 guns, a revolver, a shotgun. Here they are.
All right, thanks very much, sir. Paul, how about it? You ready to cop out?
What are you talking about, cop out? What'd you guys come all the way down here for anyway? You can't touch us.
What makes you think we can't?
You can't, that's all. You know better. You can't arrest us down here. No jurisdiction.
We didn't arrest you, Powell. The Mexican officers did.
Okay, fine. Now, how do you expect to get us out of Mexico? Guess again, copper, you know you can't do it. You haven't got the right to.
Maybe. You want to tell us where you have the loot? The money you took in those holdups?
Why should I? Look, why don't you admit it? We got you beat. We got over the line. You can't touch us down here.
I don't bet on that, mister. Commandant?
Yes, sir?
You want to tell him how it stands?
I will see that the general in charge of the Northern District is notified in the morning of your case. He will see that you and your partner are deported.
What are you trying to pull? You can't do that. You know it. It's illegal.
So is robbery, Powell. Come off it.
Doesn't make any difference. You can't touch us in Mexico. It's against the law. You can't touch us.
A popular misconception, Mr. Powell. I'm afraid you have made a mistake. If you like, you can pass the word.
How long would it be for us to receive the prisoners at the line, sir?
I don't know. A long time, I think. Maybe as long as 1 o'clock tomorrow.
You know, you can't do this. You'll never get away with it. I know a lawyer in Tijuana. I'll get him to straighten it out.
You understand, Sergeant, we can't hand this man over to you now. But if you will be at the international border at 1 o'clock tomorrow, I'm sure they'll be crossing over.
You can't do this. It's illegal. You know you can't.
We're going to try.
Wasting your time? Why don't you admit it? You can't arrest us. We got over the line. We got you beat. You can't arrest us, and you know it. You know that, don't you?
There's only one thing I know for sure, Powell.
Yeah?
San Quentin. You got out, and you're going back.
The story you have just heard was true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On December 9th, trial was held in Superior Court, Department 87, City and County of Los Angeles, State of California. In a moment, the results of that trial.
Now, here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you, George Fenneman. Friends, try a pack of Fatimas tomorrow and compare them yourself. We're so sure that you'll enjoy Fatima's extra mild and soothing smoke that we'll give you your money back if you don't enjoy Fatima more than the king-size cigarettes you've been smoking. Now, in my opinion, nothing proves our confidence in Fatima more than that. So buy a pack tomorrow. I know you'll agree with me that Fatima is the best of all king-size cigarettes. That in Fatima, the difference is quality.
Andrew Powell and Bertram Selby were deported from Mexico as undesirable aliens and turned over to U.S. authorities at the international border. They were immediately arrested by police officers on the American side and returned to Los Angeles for trial. They pled guilty to 4 counts of first-degree robbery and received sentences as prescribed by law. First-degree robbery is punishable by a prison term of from 5 years to life. After being returned to San Quentin, Powell and Selby were filed on, tried, and convicted of escape. Both of them are now serving life terms in Folsom State Penitentiary, Represa, California.
For their cooperation in preparing tonight's broadcast, Dragnet wishes to thank Chief of Police Adam E. Jansen and the San Diego Police Department.
You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department. Technical advisors Captain Jack Donahoe, Sergeant Marty Wynn, Sergeant Vance Brasher. Heard tonight were Barney Phillips, Whit Connor, Herb Ellis. Script by Jim Moser. Music by Walter Schumann. Hal Gibney speaking.
Fatima Cigarettes, best of all king-size cigarettes, has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles.
Now it's Counter Spy on NBC.
This one's about Pete Kelly. big trouble in the big 20s. So when they ask you, tell them this one's about the blues. Pete Kelly's Blues. Pete Kelly's Blues, starring Jack Webb, with story by Joe Eisinger and music by Dick Kepner.
Cherry Street, Kansas City. It's a standard speakeasy. The ceiling is low, the prices are high, and the whiskey is cut more times than a chin at a barber college. The entrance is just wide enough to handle one at a time, vertical or horizontal. My name's Pete Kelly. I play cornet. We start every night about 10, and we play till the last buck is home safe in Lupo's cash register. George Lupo owns the lease. He's a fat, friendly little guy you can always count on for a 20 in exchange for 2 10s. But that's all right. He lets us play the kind of music we like, and every once in a while he'll let us duck out to make a couple of phonograph records. All he asks is that we're back in an hour and 15% of the take. Well, last night, Matty Wynn had been after us for 2 weeks to make another record for him, to fill out one side. Matty ran a 2-turntable recording joint in a loft over on Baltimore. During the day, he'd keep busy making $2 personal records for the folks to send back home to the farm. At night, he'd rope a combo like ours to put out with some Dixie for the local market. We'd already pressed a few for his label under different names. The Spickardsville Sparks, the Grundy Growlers, the KC Cats. Maybe you got 1 or 2 in your collection. Hold on to them. They're pure. Well, it was getting on to 11 when I pushed the tempo on the last number in the second set. Lupo glared at us as we hustled out. We packed up our instruments, we piled into a taxi in Red's Erskine coupe and slammed out for Baltimore Street and Matty's loft.
Come on, I'll help you with the fake.
All right. Let's keep it light, huh? This is a residential district now. Hold it down, boys, huh? Hold it down.
Hey, fellas, quiet down now. Quiet.
Pete?
Who's that, Red?
Looks like Zelda.
Oh, Pete, I'm so glad I didn't miss you.
Yeah, Zelda.
I have to... Could I talk to you for a minute, Pete?
All right, what's on your mind?
Alone?
I got a recording date, Zelda.
I know, Pete. That's why I came here.
We have to get back to 417.
A minute, Pete? A half a minute.
All right.
Okay, Petey, we'll wait upstairs. All right, you guys, let's move. And Pete.
Yeah, Red.
We don't sound like much out of cornet. Make it snappy, huh?
All right.
All right, inside, Mo. Okay.
Thank you, Pete.
All right, come on, Zelda.
Don't be mean, Pete. I've had my share of meanness. The way the newspapers...
What did you expect? Rave notices for the way you divorced Matty to marry a hood like Johnny April?
I have a right to live my own life.
Sure, no matter whose life you kick to shreds doing it.
I love Johnny, and he loves me. Oh, Pete, of all people, I thought you would understand, that you would...
Now, look, Zelda. I like a guy named Matty Wynn. In my book, he didn't rate the kind of treatment you dealt him.
You like a guy named Matty Wynn. How much do you really know?
All right, Zelda, just funnel this down. Now, what do you want?
Matty refuses to see me, Pete.
That figures.
I want you to talk to him for me.
Saying what?
You and Matty, you always got on well together. He may listen to you.
Now, look, Zelda, I got a job to do. Get to it.
Matty's got a record that belongs to me. I want it.
What kind of a record?
It's a record you and the boys made once, June 9th.
Well, you're beginning to make a lot of sense, Zelda.
He'll understand, Pete. Just tell him I'll give him anything he wants for the record. You just tell him that, Pete. If you talk to him, maybe he'll...
Now, look, Zelda, just for the book here. I never liked you much.
I know, Pete.
I think you were grief for Matty from the first day he met you until the day you dealt him the final foul. All right, now, why don't you just leave him alone?
For Matty's sake, believe me, Pete, for his sake, I must have that record, and if you're a friend of his, Pete, you'll advise him to give it to me.
All right. I don't know what you want with an old disc of mine, but if it's something you need, it's something Matty's better off without. Matty?
Well, Pete, I've begun to think you deserted us for the Mound City Blue Blowers.
I just left Zelda.
Of course, the wisest thing any man could do.
She's waiting for me downstairs.
Why is it, Pete, that we always assume the vulture to be male?
She seemed more like a frightened rabbit.
Zelda, rabbit? Mink, yes, but never rabbit.
All right, Matty, I'll tell you about it after the session, huh? All right, let's get it on the road, huh? you want us to do?
Well, you just got one side to fill. Last time you did me singing the blues, we never did get a good take on Dixieland One Step.
Okay, all right. Come on, guys. Let's like each other, huh?
Quiet down. Quiet down.
All right, let's do Dixieland One Step.
How you want a routine, Pete?
Well, let's see. Like this. Everybody going in. Nick, plug those brakes solid. Matlock, you take the first little break on clarinet.
Yeah.
Now, Mo, you take the second and really blow it out, huh? Give me a
And everybody in on the first chorus, huh?
Yeah, that's right. And I'll take it for 16. Matlock, you take 16, everybody out. Good and bright, huh?
Yeah, Pete.
All right. Ready, Matty?
Just a second. Okay, take it on the count, huh?
All right, now, here we go.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Good, huh?
Yeah, it was good for me. Fine, Matlock.
Matty?
That does it, Pete.
All right, you can pack up. I'll see you back at 417, huh?
Come on, boys. You stand behind, Pete?
Yeah, 10 minutes. Leave the Erskine for me, will you, Red?
Sure. Look, Pete, you come here to take care of your business. Leave it that way, huh?
Don't worry, Red. I aim to. Will you take my horn?
Yeah.
I'll see you later.
All right. Come on.
Nice, Pete. One solo seemed a little long for time, but I think we can get it all on.
Look, Matty, I know this is probably none of my business.
The papers and her marriage to Johnny April has made Zelda everybody's business.
Well, she asked me to talk to you about a record.
Indeed.
An old one of ours, June Night?
Yeah, June Night. I remember it well, Pete. I always considered it a splendid achievement in jazz that should one day become a collector's item.
Zelda doesn't know jazz from German needles and cares less, but she said she'd give you anything you want for that record.
You can tell Zelda that she can purchase a copy of June Night at Lambert's for 35 cents.
Yeah, that's why I don't get it.
And if you're fortunate, Pete, you never will. Forgive me, Pete. I don't mean to be sharp with you, but you're young and carefree. Stay that way. And if Zelda should again approach you, take a trip around the world or someplace else, but go.
All right, Matty. She asked me to ask you, and I asked. Good night.
Good night, Pete.
Hey, you Pete Kelly?
Who wants to know?
Hear that, Perry? He wants to know who wants to know. All right, I'll tell you. I want to know. Feel better?
Sure, I'm Pete Kelly, but I got a right...
And I got a left. Let's ride.
Thanks, but I got my own car here.
Right now, ours is safer for you. It's bulletproof.
Well, I was going to tell him I didn't need a bulletproof car. He showed me the gun. It was a .45. I know how to admit it when I'm wrong. So we got into the bulletproof car. During the ride, I cased the two artillerymen. Except for their faces, I'd seen them a couple of times before. At 417, over at Sour Sammy's, at Fat Annie's, the same tightly tailored blue suits, the same long, itchy fingers, and the same razor-edged lips and eyes. Oh, there's hundreds of them around. But they're pretty right guys. You gotta know how to handle them. Just do as they tell you, and the chances are you won't lose more than one eye. Well, the car glided to a smooth stop in front of the Roxbury Apartments. The private elevator shot us up to the penthouse. My stomach caught up with me as the Gunsels pushed me into a living room that was slightly smaller than Swope Park, but less crowded. One man, all shoulders, no hips, and rich black hair, a face that'd make Wally Reed cut his throat. He was sitting at a table with earphones on. He was tuning a radio. He glanced once over his shoulder at me. I didn't jump more than 20 yards. It was Johnny April.
Just a minute. I've been listening to something good on the earphones. Here, I'll plug in the speaker for you. You hear that music?
Yeah.
Nice reception, huh?
Yeah.
Just got it. 12-tube super heterodyne, Magnavox horn. Pulls in Frisco without static. The best. Drink?
No, thanks.
You sure?
I'm sure.
Canadian import, the best. You sure you want number one?
Yeah, sure.
Well, luck.
Luck?
Yeah, it's good stuff. Got a jolt, the best. You know who I am?
Yeah.
You sure?
Sure.
What's my name?
April. Johnny April.
That's right. You know my wife?
Your wife?
My wife.
Yeah?
You sure?
Yeah, Mrs. April.
Don't you know her better than that?
Than what?
Than Mrs. April?
Well?
Huh?
Well, sure. I know her. I knew her when she... Well, before she...
When she was married to Matty Wynn?
Yeah.
But you didn't call her Mrs. Wynn, did you?
Well,
What did you call her?
By her name?
Which is?
Zelda.
Zelda, that's right. That's all I wanted to fix. Now we both know what we're talking about, Zelda. You understand now?
Yeah?
That's why I invited you here, to talk about Zelda. And why you're bothering her.
Oh, well, you lost me, Mr. April.
Not a bad suggestion, but first I want you to tell me what you and Wynn are clubbing Zelda with.
You're asking me to play without a cue sheet, Mr. April. I don't even know the tune.
Tonight you stopped Zelda on Baltimore Street. You talked to her on a corner. You were seen. She was pleading with you.
Now, look, Mr. April, you're spinning it backwards. She stopped me, asked me to speak to Wynn.
About what?
Well, about a record she said belongs to her.
What record?
Well, it's a record. One that I made for Wynn. It's called... The title... Yeah, I know. This sounds silly, but it's true.
Half right, Kelly. Sounds silly because it isn't true. What do you want with Zelda?
All right, April. You take it any way you like. All I want from Zelda is distance between us. Now, I got a date to play.
Jake, teach him. What are you and Wynn cooking?
Nothing.
What do you want from Zelda?
Nothing, I tell you.
Johnny, what are you doing?
Is this the crumb who stopped you tonight?
Yeah, he's the one.
How much did Wynn pay April to take Angel off his hands?
What did he want?
Money. Yeah, he said he and Wynn would make trouble for me. For you.
What kind of trouble?
My divorce. About my divorce. Open it up again unless I paid them.
All right. Now listen to me, Ten Horn. You got luck. You got lots of luck. You should light a candle to your luck. Next time you fill a ditch. This time I only warn you. And these are the warnings on the way. Tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock, you go to Union Station. You buy a ticket, east, west, north, or south. You go. You go till the train runs out of the rails. No more room for you in Kansas City. Only in that ditch. You hear me?
I hear you. Well, Jake and Perry drove me back to the Erskine. They dropped me on Baltimore. I sat on the curb, my head between my knees. After a while, I felt a little better. I could breathe again. The lights were still on up in Matty's loft. He was probably working on the master. While I navigated the long flight of stairs, trying hard to hold back the sudden anger kicking up in me. It wasn't Matty's fault. He'd warned me about Zelda. No use to take it out on him. Well, I went into the loft and made an effort to hold it down. But it was a wasted effort. Matty wouldn't have minded anything I said or did. Matty wasn't even there. Only his body, half covered with the burlap used on the walls to soundproof the joint. He'd been shot once through the head, clawed down enough burlap over himself to make a shroud. I picked up the phone in the office, gave Central the number of Sour Sammy's joint, and waited for Sammy to see if Barney Ricketts was under his favorite table. Barney Ricketts is the only ex-bootlegger I know who went broke in 1922. He set out to prove that a man could drink his gin without ill effects. But he never set a time limit on the experiment. No, Barney hadn't come in yet to Sour Sammy's. Well, I left word for him, meet me at Fat Annie's place. I started to leave. I hesitated and went back to Matty Wynn, spread a clean handkerchief over his face. I made the street 3 stairs at a time. I crossed the river, jolted the Erskine down Boulder Road to Fat Annie's place. Seemed like a waste of good singing, but Maggie Jackson was getting ready to do her number. I eased a lone drunk out of a booth, draped him on the edge of the bar, and sat and listened to Maggie.
Across the river on the Kansas side, that's where Fat Annie and the blues abide. To get your music and your chicken fried, come to Fat Annie. Just pour a pocketful of rock and ride across the river to the Kansas side. And when you get across that great divide, come to Fat Annie.
I'm just beat, Pete, right down to my shoes.
Yeah, it's a noisy crowd, Maggie.
Out-of-town wine buyers with gin chasers. Murder.
Yeah, do you want a beer?
Thanks, Pete. I could use it.
All right.
Hey, draw 2, will you?
Barney ain't been in yet, has he?
No. You got trouble again, Pete?
Where can I buy a new birthday? The stars are ganging up on me.
Ain't nothing in that astrology, Pete.
Well, there must be some explanation. Yes or no, hot or cold, I catch it.
What's the misery this time, Pete?
Only that Matty Wynn caught a bullet in the head.
No.
And if I'm not out of KC by morning, he's going to have company. Look, Maggie, do you remember a disc I cut for Matty? June night?
Sure do. Good session.
You got a copy of that one?
Right on top of the pile.
Where?
In my room, just down the street a piece.
Well, I'd go with you, Maggie, but I don't want to miss Barney.
I'll get it for you, Petey.
Thanks a lot.
Ah, Pete Kelly, noted troubadour, bar of the barrel houses.
Hi, Barney.
And Maggie Jackson, canary of the cribs.
I'll be right back, Pete.
Thanks a lot.
Petey, I've just suffered a great hurt. No sooner did I set foot in Sour Sammy's joint than Sour Sammy himself came a grinning and a smirking to tell me with undisguised glee that you were waiting for me here. He was openly delighted to see me go.
Yeah, look, Barney.
I was sorely tempted to ignore the message, merely to aggravate Sour Sammy, you understand. But since it was you, Petey, and in distress, I'll warrant, I came on the wings of Mercury.
Thanks, Barney.
Mercury, that's a thought, Petey. We've tried ether in our beer, chloroform, and even the tincture of laudanum. Now, what would a soup spoon of mercury do? No, too risky, unless, of course, one...
Barney, listen to me, will you? I'm breathing against the clock.
Never will I forget Sour Sammy's attitude, and after all the credit he's given me, too. No, Petey, it proves only one thing. Man is essentially an asocial animal. We band together only because we find it impossible to survive alone.
Yeah, I know.
But there is no true affection anywhere. Like the wolf, yes, take the wolf, Petey. He too herds, but only in times of want and stress.
Yeah.
And as soon as he doesn't have to rely upon his fellow wolf for survival, off he goes to prey upon his own. Yes, Petey, like the wolf, man is a lone hunter, hating the herd because he is forced to depend upon it for survival.
You all through?
Very well, fellow wolf.
Johnny April, Barney, do you know him?
Oh, yes. A fine gentleman, Johnny April, never kills on the Sabbath.
Well, I can't wait that long. He gives me till morning to get out of town.
Foolish man. Right now, you should be navel-deep in timetable.
Look, I got sucked into this by his wife, Zelda. She asked me to get a record from Matty Wynn that belongs to her. She told April that I'm trying to shake her down. I got worked over, and Wynn got a bullet.
What's on this record?
I don't know. It's just a disc I once made for Matty. It's called June Night.
Why does Zelda want it?
I don't know.
Why did Zelda lie to April?
I don't know.
Here's the record, Pete.
Thanks, Maggie.
And who shot Matty?
I don't know.
Let's save time, Petey. Just tell me what you do know.
Well, all I know is that Zelda's after this record, and she doesn't want April to know it.
And that's the copy there?
Yeah, June Night. I thought maybe we could spin it once, and maybe it'll give us some kind of a message.
I'll put it on the phonograph, Pete.
Thanks, Maggie. I'll wind it up for you here. All right, listen to it, huh?
Good quality. Mean anything?
Nothing.
No hidden meanings or codes or ciphers?
Nothing there but the music.
Tell me, Petey, how are these things made?
What?
A recording.
Well, you record directly onto a round table of soapy wax, and then they dust this wax with graphite, and they dip it in a copper plating tank. From this, they make what they call the mother, or the stamper. And that's what turns out the records that you buy in the store.
I see. And the wax master, that's always kept in the recording studio?
Yeah?
When you've finished a job, Pete, can anything else be recorded on the master?
Well, I suppose you could dub from one master to another, yeah.
Petey, when I was a mere lad, my old father told me, when you seek an answer, child, always go to the master.
Well, I pointed Barney for the door. We got into the Erskine and jolted back over Boulder Road and across the river. Barney insisted on expanding his wolf-man-herd theory all the way back to Baltimore Street. By the time we reached Matty Wynn's loft, my fangs were on edge. Barney looked away from Wynn's body as we headed for the file room. I yanked open a metal container. It was empty. The master of June night was gone. Yeah, your old father was right, Barney.
He also told me the master will always be there for you. Notice the disarranged state of the files here, all the compartments.
Yeah.
Whoever came for the master of June night went directly to the right file as you did. Didn't find it there and ransacked the rest of the place.
Well, then Matty hid it figuring something like this, but where?
Let's look around the control room, Petey.
Oh, there's no place there to hide a flea.
Did you ever read a story called The Purloined Letter by Edgar Allan Poe?
Not now, Barney.
A wonderful little tale.
Now, look, Barney,
In this particular story, Petey, a number of detectives were taking a room apart by the seams, searching for a letter. They couldn't find it, and why? Because man is blind, Petey. He never recognizes the truth when his eyes fall on it, just as our eyes now fall on this peculiar-looking record on the turntable.
Yeah. Barney, you wouldn't leave it out just like this.
Prove me wrong. Play it.
All right. Let's listen to it and see.
You understand what's here to say, Zelda?
You wrote the script for me.
Not that I don't trust you, of course.
Let's get on with it, Matty.
A little closer to
Is this close enough, Pete?
Don't be foolish, Zelda. Put that gun away.
Give me the record, Pete.
Sure, in exchange for that gun.
You'll get what's in the gun.
Like you dealt it to Matty? The record here on the turntable all the time, and you broke 3 nails ripping those files apart?
Face the wall. Keep your hands up. Lean against it, both of you.
Excuse me, madam, but I just dropped in to make a record for the folks
Shut
back
up.
home. Surely.
One move, and I'll give it to you in the back.
That's my department, Zelda.
Johnny.
Give me the gun. All right, Zelda. I told you here. I only bought a small piece of your yarn. Now I want the rest of it.
I didn't want to involve you, Johnny. I came to pay them off. They killed Matty. See? See there? And I got the gun away
No
from...
good, Zelda. Can't you see his face? He's just run out of mileage and ideas. Listen to this, April.
No, darling. It's a frame. This...
Shut up. All right, Kelly, I'm listening, and it better be good.
All right. Here it is. It's all on the record.
Just close enough, Matty? Perfect. Now, just in case anything goes wrong, this recording will be our protection from each other. To whom it may concern, my wife, Zelda, and I have entered into this agreement of our own free will.
All right, just get to it, Matty.
Go ahead.
I have told Johnny April that I want to divorce my husband and marry him. When this is accomplished, it is our intention that I be made a widow as soon as possible and then remarry Matty Wynn.
Just for the record, you agree to decoy said Mr. April to a predetermined spot where you'll be unarmed and without bodyguards. I agree to shoot Mr. April. The police will not question your story that he was ambushed by a rival mobster, identity unknown to you. You will then inherit the April money and return to me. You agree?
I agree. Crazy enough to do anything for you, even when you tell your own wife.
All right.
That's enough.
This will be legal.
Johnny.
April, don't shoot her.
Johnny, don't. Please, don't.
Get over, Zelda.
No.
Back off so I won't miss you. Zelda!
Johnny! Johnny!
He can't hear you.
I should have let him kill me.
You fell in love with him, didn't you?
Yes, I did. Only one thing I didn't count on.
Yeah. You can't dance at 2 weddings with one heart.
Pete Kelly's Blues, starring Jack Webb, with story by Joe Eisenberg and music by Dick Cathcart, scoring by Matty Matlock. The music of Pete Kelly's Big Seven and Maggie Jackson is now available on phonograph records. Ladies and gentlemen, the Red Cross already has allocated more than $1 million for emergency relief work in the flood-stricken areas of Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, and Oklahoma. The biggest Red Cross job, however, will be rebuilding and refurnishing homes in the flooded areas. Cost of this job will run into the millions, more than present Red Cross resources can provide. That is why President Truman has issued a special appeal to all Americans to contribute generously to a special Red Cross flood fund of at least $5 million. Send all contributions to your local Red Cross chapter.
The preceding was transcribed. It's the Silver Jubilee on NBC. Tonight, one of your old friends is returning to NBC. Yes, there's fun for everyone tonight with Uncle Gildy, that happy, bungling hero of the airwaves, the great Gildersleeve. And later tonight, there's the best in recorded music on Meredith Wilson's Music Room. Meredith's special guest this evening is Frank Lesser, the composer of Broadway's musical Guys and Dolls. And make a note to hear Dragnet tomorrow with another authentic story from the files of the Los Angeles Police Department. The great Gildersleeve tonight on NBC.
The story you are about to hear is true.
The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Fatima Cigarettes, best of all king-size cigarettes, brings you Dragnet on both radio and television.
You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned to homicide detail. A 38-year-old woman disappears. She leaves her sister and her 4 children behind. There's evidence of foul play. Your job? Find her.
In Fatima, the difference is quality.
Yes, in Fatima, the difference is quality.
Prove it yourself today. Compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
1. Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
2. Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
3. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
And in Fatima, you get an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality.
Definitely the best quality in its class, but the same price as the cigarette you're now smoking.
Buy Fatima in the bright sunny yellow pack. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Monday, June 3rd. It was overcast in Los Angeles. We were working the day watch out of homicide detail. My partner's Ed Jacobs. The boss is Thad Brown, chief of detectives. My name's Friday. I was on the way back from communications, and it was 8:15 a.m. when I got to room 42. Homicide.
Joe, what's doing?
Hi, Brian. You seen Ed?
Went down the hall a minute, said he'd be right back.
Oh, thank you. I don't see anything in the book. Nothing new, huh?
Not much. Pretty slow. How's your mother, Joe? Heard she wasn't feeling too well.
No, she's not, as a matter of fact. Doctor says it's anemia. It's going to take a little time to get over it, I guess.
No, sorry to hear it. I got to do some checking down at the auto desk. If I get any calls, have them switch it down there, will you?
Yeah, I sure will, Brian.
Thanks.
You betcha.
Oh, excuse me, Ed.
Pardon me, Tom.
Hi, Ed. What'd they give you?
Missing report, woman. How about the mail?
No, it's nothing. Is that the missing report there?
Yeah, it's all here. Some woman out on 64th Street, name's Rose Baker. She's been gone about a week.
Mm-hmm. Last seen Tuesday, May 27th, 10 p.m. Who's this that made the report? Carl Shelton? Who's he?
It's her boyfriend. Miss Baker's husband died about 5 years ago. She's been running around quite a bit since then. Had a lot of man trouble.
Well, she disappeared before then, huh?
Yeah, half dozen times. Never been gone this long, though. Holmes took this report from Shelton. He gathered Miss Baker's not too stable. She's known to drink quite a bit. Doesn't seem to care anything for her home or kids.
Yeah, I see it here. She has 4 children. They're living with her aunt, Mrs. Baker's sister. It's kind of a funny arrangement, isn't it?
Yeah. Baker woman packed her bags and walked out of the house about a year ago. Her sister's been taking care of the kids ever since. Mother comes back for a visit once in a while.
Mm-hmm. This address we've got on Mrs. Baker, it's the same address as her boyfriend, Carl Shelton.
Yeah, that's right. They both have apartments in the same building.
Is this a recent picture of Miss Baker?
Supposed to be, yeah. It's a nice-looking woman, huh?
Yeah. Sister's listed here as the last person who saw her. Well, how's that? Baker woman still wasn't living at home, was she?
According to the sister, Mrs. Baker came over to the house to see her the night she disappeared, sometime around 8 o'clock. 2 of them had some business to talk over. Seems the sister had a check for $400 she got from selling some furniture. Claimed the kids had been sick. She had doctor bills to pay.
You mean Mrs. Baker's sister took care of things to that extent?
Apparently. Anyway, after the sister got the check for selling the furniture, Miss Baker wanted half the money. Sister said that's why she came to see her that night. 2 of them got in the car and went out to find somebody to cash the check. You want a drink of water?
No, thanks, man. Where do you get a $400 check cashed at 8 o'clock at night? Would you know?
Yeah, Sister said Miss Baker knew somebody who'd cash it for him. Turned out the person couldn't cash it. Sister stopped at a bar for a glass of beer. Mrs. Baker took the car and went to look up somebody else she thought could cash it. That was it. Mrs. Baker hadn't been seen since.
Who was this somebody else?
No idea. Sister claims she doesn't know. Mrs. Baker didn't tell her.
Sounds like Mrs. Baker wanted the whole check, wouldn't you say?
That's what the sister figured when Mrs. Baker didn't come back. She finished the glass of beer, left the barn, started walking home. 2 blocks from the house, she found her car parked. No sign of Mrs. Baker. Car keys were in the glove compartment, so it's the sister's share of the money, $200 in cash.
Well, how about the firm that issued the check? They get it back canceled?
Yeah, a couple of days ago. Mrs. Baker's endorsement on the back.
Yeah, sounds pretty wild, doesn't it?
Whole thing does. Talked to half dozen people who saw Miss Baker that night, and none of their stories jibe.
What do you mean?
Her boyfriend, Carl Shelton, he claims Miss Baker told him she was going out of town for a few days with a girlfriend.
They check it out?
Yeah. Girlfriend didn't know anything about it. Then they talked to a woman who works with Miss Baker. She says, yeah, the Baker woman was planning a trip.
Miss Baker mention anything about it to her sister?
No, sister says Miss Baker told her just the opposite. Said she was getting out of her apartment into a new place. She was going to spend the next couple of days moving. They checked the boyfriend, Shelton. Said if Miss Baker was moving, it was news to him.
Oh, either she's a liar or one of her friends are, huh?
It's all bollock stuff. No two stories anywhere near alike.
What do they figure for a motive? They got a line on anybody who might have wandered out of the way?
Big field to pick from. She fought with Carl Shelton. She fought with his sister, some of the people she worked with. She had 3 or 4 other men around town on the string, too. Any one of them could have wanted her out of the way.
All her relatives been checked out, and all her friends, places she'd be most likely to go?
All checked. Not a trace of her, nothing.
Yeah, I guess we better start moving on it. A lot of ground to cover. See if we can't straighten out some of those stories.
One thing's sure. Somebody's lying.
8:35 a.m. Before we left the city hall, we checked with Sergeant Holmes in Missing Persons, who'd taken the report on Rose Baker's disappearance. He had nothing to add to what was in the report and what he'd already told Ed. First on the interview list was the sister of the missing woman, Bernice Marin. She was employed as a saleswoman for a grocery supply firm. We called at the home where Miss Marin lived with her 4 nieces and nephews, but there was no answer. The next-door neighbor told us that Miss Marin was working, that she usually didn't get home until 4:15 or 4:30 in the afternoon. In the meantime, we figured we might as well check the next name on the list, Mrs. Baker's boyfriend, Carl Shelton. We'd already checked him through R&I, and he had no record. We drove out to his address, a 3-story apartment house on 64th Street. Shelton's apartment was on the main floor rear. He answered the door in his bathrobe and slippers. He told us that he was employed at one of the local oil refineries, and that this particular week he was working the graveyard shift, 11 at night until 7 in the morning. He showed us back to a small kitchen at the rear of the apartment. While we questioned him, he fixed a percolator of coffee and put it on the stove.
You're sure about Miss Baker's plans, are you? She never mentioned anything to you about moving out of the apartment house here?
No, never. Somebody's handing you a line there. If Rosie was going to move, she'd tell me about it. Just a minute. I got to get that coffee. It looks about done. You fellas want some Java? Got a whole pot full here.
No, thank you. How long did you say you've known Miss Baker?
Oh, about a year and a half. We got along pretty good. Did right from the start. Sure don't understand her taking off like this.
Miss Baker ever talk to you much about the family? Her sister, 4 children? I mean, did you see them regularly? Seem to get along with them all right to you?
I don't think I'd know that. Rosie never had much to say about them. The only thing I could gather was that she just got sick of the routine, you know. Keeping up a house, doing the wash, mopping, dusting, taking care of 4 kids. She just checked out, that's all. Let her sister Bernice take over.
Mm-hmm.
If you ask me, she never should have had a family to begin with. Rosie isn't the kind. She's a party girl, likes a good time, you know what I mean?
One thing I don't understand, Shelton. You said a minute ago you couldn't figure out Miss Baker's going off like this. When you filed a missing report on her, you said she was planning a trip out of town.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, isn't it possible she might have taken off without telling you?
No, I don't think so. She'd have told me. She's planning a trip, all right, but she wasn't going to leave till the next night, Wednesday night. She's going to pick up this girlfriend of hers, Iris, and the 2 of them were going to take the bus down to Laguna for a couple of days.
Well, it's our understanding this girlfriend, Iris, didn't know anything about the trip. Can you explain that?
I don't know. I guess Rosie forgot to tell her. Can't figure these women sometimes. Maybe she was going to phone her Wednesday morning. She knew Iris could get away almost any time.
And you think it's possible she might have gone down to Laguna by herself?
No, that's not like Rosie. Besides, before I went in to report her missing, I called a couple of places down Laguna where Rosie usually stops at. They hadn't seen her.
Possible she might have gone some other place?
No, without telling me, no. Besides, she wouldn't go alone. I know that.
Sheldon, we understand Mrs. Baker was friendly with 2 or 3 other men around town. You think it's possible she might have gone someplace with one of them? Sheldon?
No, I can't buy that. If it was 8 months ago, I'd say maybe, but not now.
Why not?
Well, we had it out, that's all. It was all settled. She wouldn't do anything like that again.
Pretty sure about that, are you?
Yeah, positive. I don't get it at all. She wouldn't do that to me, taking off, just packing up and leaving. Rosie wouldn't do that to me.
Well, she's got 4 children.
Yeah.
She did it to them. We questioned Carl Shelton for another half hour, but he failed to come up with anything in the way of a definite lead. 10:40 a.m., we drove to the home of the missing woman's girlfriend, an Iris Kirby. 2 things she was pretty definite about. She knew nothing about an out-of-town trip Mrs. Baker was supposed to have planned for the 2 of them, and secondly, she had no use for Carl Shelton. She told us that Shelton was her ex-boyfriend, and that she had introduced him to Rose Baker, and that shortly after that he dropped her. A few weeks later, Shelton began to keep steady company with Mrs. Baker. Outside of her personal grievance against Shelton, Iris Kirby had nothing to offer in the way of a lead to the whereabouts of her friend. 11:30 a.m., we got in the car and headed for the factory in the south end of town where Rose Baker was employed. We stopped off on the way for lunch, a bowl of soup and a sandwich. Ed had a cheeseburger and a piece of pie. Before we left, we checked the office to see if there were any calls. Nothing. The place where Mrs. Baker worked was on Santa Fe Avenue, a one-story building covering almost half a block. They manufactured men's work clothes, shirts and overalls. We checked with the personnel office. We asked if Rose Baker had any friends that she worked with. We were told that there was a Mildred Dunn who was a fairly close friend of the Baker woman. Ed and I waited in the office while they sent down to the plant for Mildred Dunn.
Ms. Dunn?
That's right.
Police officers. My name's Jacobs. This is my partner, Sergeant Friday.
How do you do?
How are you? I'd like to ask you a few questions about Rose Baker, Mrs. Dunn. I understand you're a pretty close friend of hers?
Yes, that's right. I've known Rose ever since she came here. She works on the machine next to me. She come home yet?
No, not yet. You remember Miss Baker saying anything to you about taking a trip, Miss Dunn? I mean, just before she disappeared?
Yes, she did. She'd been looking forward to it. That's probably where she is, don't you think, off on her trip?
Well, we don't know, ma'am. Did she mention anything definite about the trip to you, where she was going, when she was leaving?
Well, I think she was going to Laguna Beach. It's hard to tell. She's always kidding around, Rose is. Once she said she was going to fly to Switzerland for a vacation. San Moritz. She's always kidding around like that.
Oh, that's so?
Like once when she had a date with Fred, she said she was going to the pump room in Chicago. You know, just being funny.
I see. Who is this Fred, Mrs. Dunn?
Fella in the shipping department, Fred Lyons. Nice fella.
He and Mrs. Baker see much of each other?
They used to, yes, quite a bit. I don't know if they were serious about each other. I thought they were till the last month or so. Maybe they had a tiff or something. Maybe Rose got tired of him. I don't know.
But you do think the two of them were serious at one time?
Oh, yes. It wasn't more than a month ago. And all of a sudden they weren't sweet on each other. At least Rose wasn't about him. She told me that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess we better check on him, then.
Mm-hmm.
Is this Fred Lyons working today? Do you know, ma'am?
Oh, no. He quit last Tuesday.
1:15 p.m. We finished questioning Mildred Dunn, and we went back to the personnel office to get Fred Lyons' description and last known address. We checked out the address, but Lyons had moved out the previous Tuesday and left no forwarding address. We questioned the landlady, looked over his rooms, checked through the neighborhood, and talked to everybody he knew. We found nothing to indicate that Lyons had anything directly to do with Rose Baker's disappearance. But we did find out that he knew Mrs. Baker and that he thought quite a bit of her. We went back to the office, got out a broadcast and an APB on Lyons.
Want to check the book, Joe, see if we got any late calls there?
Yeah, sure.
I'll get it.
Right.
Homicide, Jacobs. That's right. Mm-hmm. Are they sure? What was that? All right, thank you. Got something.
Yeah?
Hollywood Division. Woman's purse found in a vacant lot out there. High school kid found it. A lot of identification inside.
Yeah.
Rose Baker.
3:15 p.m. The purse was brought downtown to the crime lab for detailed examination. Brian and Barrett from Homicide went out to interview the boy who found the purse and to check the neighborhood where it was discovered. Meantime, Ed and I drove out to talk to the missing woman's sister, 36 years old, Bernice Marin. She and her sister's 4 children lived in a 5-room stucco house just off Exposition Boulevard. We got there shortly after Miss Marin returned home from her job. Her 2 older nephews were out in front cutting the lawn. She showed us into a neatly kept living room where we interviewed her. She was a plain-looking woman, brown hair, gray eyes. She showed little concern about her sister's disappearance.
I gave up trying to keep track of her a long time ago, Sergeant. I haven't any idea where she's gone. I used to worry about her. I don't anymore.
Well, how about that purse of hers that was found this afternoon, Miss Marin? Wouldn't you say that makes it a little unusual this time?
I don't think so. She loses things all the time. I don't know what she does when she goes off on those things. I don't want to know. Gets drunk and does a lot of fooling around, I suppose. She's lost 2 or 3 purses the same way.
What about last Tuesday, the night she disappeared? You notice if she'd been drinking then?
Yeah, I got the idea she'd had a couple of highballs before she came over. She wasn't drunk, but she wasn't feeling any pain. I'll say, would you excuse me? I want to yell at the kids out there.
Yes, ma'am.
Frank, that's enough of that playing around out there. Let's get started pushing that lawnmower, huh?
Okay, just trying out a new system. Almost half done now.
You better hurry it up. You still got the backyard to do, remember?
Yeah, okay.
The only good thing that came out of that marriage, Sergeant, those kids out there.
Yes, ma'am.
There's 2 more besides Frank and Bobby, the girls, my nieces. One's 9, one's 7.
Mm-hmm.
Marvelous kids. Girls are just as pretty as pictures. I'm glad I have a chance to take care of them. I guess I just like kids. Can't understand it when people don't appreciate them. I don't have a family of my own.
Oh, I see.
Miss Marin, when you were with your sister last Tuesday night, you say she didn't mention anything at all about taking that trip out of town?
No, just the opposite. Like I told you. Said she was moving out of her apartment into a new place. That's why she needed the money.
Mm-hmm. Well, what's the story about this money your sister came to pick up, Miss Mann? I don't think I quite got that clear.
Well, we had this baby grand piano that my mother gave Rose and me just before she died. Kids have been sick the last couple of months, one thing and another. I needed a little money to catch up on some doctor bills, so I sold the piano. I hated to do it, but the bills had to be paid.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Rose found out about it somehow, and she wanted half of the money I got for the piano. She wanted the money for herself. Can you imagine that? She wasn't even willing to pay for her own kids' doctor bills. It'd be different if I was charging her to take care of the kids. I just do it because I like them.
Mm-hmm, I see.
Well, anyway, she found out about it, and I had to split the check with her. The whole thing was for $400.
I understand your sister got the check cashed that night. That correct?
Yeah, that's right. It was 8 o'clock at night, but Rose said she knew somebody who'd cash it. She wanted the money that night. To save an argument, we got in the car and went to see this friend of hers, some bartender. He couldn't cash the thing, so Rose took the car and went out to look up another friend she thought would cash it. I didn't want to go chasing all over town with her, so I stayed at this bar and had a beer.
Mm-hmm. And that's the last time you saw your sister, is it?
Yes, I waited a couple of hours, and then I walked home. And 2 blocks from the house, I saw my car pulled up to the curb, right on Exposition Boulevard. Car keys were in the glove compartment. $200 in cash right under them. No sign of Rose, though.
Well, what time was it when you got back to the house, you remember?
It was after 11. Close to 11:30, I think. I went right to bed.
And since that time, you've had no indication where your sister might have gone? No phone calls, no letters, no word from one of her friends who might have seen her?
No, not a thing. She's in trouble. You can understand why. It's been coming for a long time. Last 5 years, going downhill all the time. She's no good, Sergeant. I don't know how it happened. It's no good at all.
Thank you very much, Miss Mann.
Thank you, ma'am.
Oh, not at all. No trouble. I guess I better get dinner started for the kids.
Well, if you hear anything about your sister, we'd appreciate it if you'd give us a call.
Yes, all right. It's going to be the same old story. Same thing all over again. You can bet on it.
Ma'am?
She'll come back when the money's gone.
5:15 p.m. Ed and I drove back downtown and went directly to the crime lab. The missing woman's purse, which had been found in the vacant lot out in Hollywood, had been examined thoroughly. They'd found nothing that would provide us with a new lead. We checked communications, but there was still no answer to the APB we'd gotten out on Fred Lyons, the man who'd worked with Rose Baker and who dropped from sight the same day she did. 5:30 p.m. We got back to the squad room.
Hi, Brian. You just get back?
Yeah. You get the word?
No, what's that?
Mrs. Baker, they just found her body.
You are listening to Dragnet, authentic stories of your police force in action.
Comparison proves Fatima quality. Prove Fatima quality yourself today.
Compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
1. Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
2. Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
3. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
And in Fatima, you get an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality.
Friends, to show our confidence in Fatima, we make this money-back guarantee. Buy a pack of Fatimas. Enjoy Fatima quality, extra mildness, and superbly blended tobaccos. If you're not convinced Fatima is better than the king-size cigarette you're now smoking, just return the pack and the unsmoked Fatimas by August 1st, 1952, for your money back plus postage. Fatima, Box 37, New York 1.
Remember, because of its quality, its extra mildness, its better flavor and aroma, more smokers now insist on Fatima than ever before.
Insist on the best. Fatima, extra mild and soothing, plus the added protection of Fatima quality. Smoke Fatima. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
June 3rd, Monday, 6 p.m. The body of 38-year-old Rose Baker had been discovered in the Hollywood Hills area. Approximately 3/4 of a mile from the intersection of Mulholland Drive and Oak Knoll Terrace, a dirt road branched off to the left of Mulholland and wound about 300 yards down the hill to a dead-end stop. Just below the guardrail, which circled the edge of the road, there were 2 eucalyptus trees. They overlooked a deep ravine covered with scrub oak and patches of laurel. Halfway down one slope of the ravine, they found the body of the missing woman. There were 2 bullet holes in the left side of the skull, There was another one at the base of the throat. In her clenched right hand, there was a 50-cent piece. The immediate area surrounding the body had been roped off, and Lieutenant Lee Jones and the crime lab crew were making their preliminary investigation. There was no sign of the murder weapon. The coroner arrived, and when the preliminary investigation was completed, the body was taken downtown to the county morgue. All clothing and personal effects were removed from the body and sent to the crime lab for detailed examination. Rose Baker's sister, Bernice Marin, was brought to the county morgue and identified the body. A few minutes after 10 o'clock that night, Ed and I got back to the office. I got it. Homicide, Friday.
Is it Sergeant Friday?
Yes, sir, that's right.
This is Carl Shelton, Sergeant. You were out to talk to me this morning, you remember?
Oh, yeah, Sheldon.
I heard about Rosie just a couple of minutes ago. I got to talk to you, Sergeant. There's something I got to tell you.
Was that so? Do you want to tell me now?
Well, I don't want to tell you on the phone. I'll drive in to see you. I'll leave right now.
Well, yeah, all right. Do you mind telling me what it's about?
Yeah, I know who killed Rosie.
11:08 p.m. Carl Shelton arrived at the office. Ed and I took him down the hall to the interrogation room where he gave us his story. He told us, first of all, that he was well acquainted with most of the regular customers at the tavern where Rose Baker and her sister had first stopped to cash the $400 check. He told us one of these people, a Leroy Hansen, had contacted him after he read in the morning paper about Mrs. Baker's murder.
I've known Leroy at least 4 or 5 years. Used to work with him. He wouldn't lie to me.
What did this fellow tell you, Shelton? That's Leroy Hansen.
He said he got to the bar a little after midnight. It had to be at least that, because Leroy doesn't get off work till 11:30. He said he saw Rosie sitting in a car parked a couple doors down from the bar. There was a woman in the car with her. He described her just like Rosie's sister. They were having a beef.
This friend of yours hear what Mrs. Baker and this woman were talking about?
No, but he's smart enough to know a big argument when he sees one. He says they were really going to it.
Is he sure about the time?
He's got to be. Leroy works at a sheet metal plant south of town. He gets off at 11:30. Takes him more than a half hour to get in. Why should he lie about it? He wasn't even going to mention it till he found out she was dead.
This woman he says Miss Baker was with, she fits her sister's description that close?
Exactly. And there was a guy with Leroy. He'll back it up. If the sister says she wasn't sitting in that car with Rosie outside that bar after midnight, she's a liar.
Well, she is if you can prove your story.
Here's the phone. You ask Leroy.
11:22 p.m. We put in calls to both of the men who were supposed to have seen Rose Baker and her sister Bernice sitting in a parked car outside the tavern 6 nights before. Both of them corroborated Carl Shelton's story down to the last detail. They were especially certain about the time. Bernice Marin told us that on the night her sister Rose disappeared, she hadn't seen her after 9:15 p.m., and that she had walked home and was in bed by 11:30. Both Leroy Hansen and his friend told us that they had seen Rose Baker and a woman answering her sister's description sitting together in a car parked outside the tavern. They were both certain at the time that it was well past midnight. We made a check on Leroy Hansen and his friend. As far as we were able to find out, there was no logical reason why they should lie about what they'd told us. Ed and I got in the car and drove out to the home of Bernice Marin, just off Exposition Boulevard. It was 20 minutes past midnight. We rang the front doorbell and got her out of bed.
Oh, hello, officers. Didn't know who it was. Come in.
Thank you, ma'am.
Oh, you have to wait long before I answered. I sleep pretty sound.
Fred will have to ask you to get dressed, Miss Marin. I'd like to talk to you downtown.
Why? What's the matter?
Well, some more questions we have to ask you, ma'am. A few more things we have to clear up about your sister. It's pretty important.
Well, I've told you everything I know. I don't like to go out and leave the kids alone at night. What is it you want to ask me about?
Well, you told us the last time you saw your sister was about 9:15 last Tuesday night, Miss Marin.
Yes, that's right.
We've got a couple of people who claim they saw you with your sister after midnight Tuesday. You were sitting with her in your car parked outside a tavern. You're having an argument with her. At least 2 people saw you, and they'll swear to that.
No, that couldn't be right.
They claim it is.
They say it was after midnight and they saw me with Rose?
Yes, ma'am, that's what they say.
And you believe it? You believe it was me?
Yes, ma'am, we do.
You think I killed Rose, is that it?
Yes, ma'am, we think so. How about it, Miss Marin?
It'll take me a minute to get my clothes on. I want to talk to the oldest boy, my nephew Frank. Would it be all right?
Well, I'll have to go along with you.
All right. This way, down the hall.
All right.
In here. I don't want to wake the other kids if I can help it.
All right.
Frank. Wake up, Frank. Frankie.
What do you want, Aunt Bernice?
I hate to wake you up, Frankie. I'm going to have to go downtown tonight. I'm leaving now. In case I'm not here when you and the kids get up, I want you to take care of everything, all right, honey?
Yeah, okay. What do you have to go downtown for?
Well, it's something about your mother, Frank. Might take a little time. You see the girls get off to school on time in the morning, won't you? Bobby, too. The sandwiches are all made. They're in the icebox. All you have to do is put them in a paper sack, all right?
Yeah, okay. Why do you have to go now? Can't you wait until tomorrow?
No, I'm afraid not, honey. You take care of everything, huh? Make sure all the doors are locked. And don't forget to feed the dog.
No, I won't forget. What's the matter? Is there anything wrong?
No, of course not. Now, if something happens so I can't get back tomorrow, I'll call you on the phone, all right?
Yeah, okay. You be sure and call, huh?
I'll call you, honey. Go to sleep now. It'll be all right. You get some sleep. Good night, Frankie.
Yeah, okay. Good night.
I'm sorry to keep you waiting. I had to tell Frank what to do. The kids wouldn't understand. I mean, if they woke up and didn't find me here.
Yes, ma'am. What'd you do with a murder gun, Miss Marin?
Out in the garage, I'll show you. I had her 4 kids to raise. It's not easy. You know what it costs to feed them, put clothes on their back? It's not the kids I minded. They're wonderful. I love every one of them. I'm glad to get the chance to raise them. Never married myself. Never had any of my own.
Mm-hmm.
Hasn't been easy at all, working all day, coming home and cooking for them, doing the wash, trying to keep the house clean. Rose never gave me a dime to pay a bill, for her own kids, too. She gave us nothing, and she tried to take everything, tried to bleed me for my last dollar. She cashed the check that night and said she was going to keep all the money. I couldn't stand anymore. We argued, and I killed her.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, ma'am. We'll have to go.
Yes, all right. What'll I do, Sergeant? What'll I say?
I advise you to tell the truth. You'll get a fair trial.
I know that. It's not what I mean.
What do you mean?
Inside there, what am I going to say? How'll I explain it?
Ma'am?
The kids. How do you tell 4 kids you killed their mother?
The story you have just heard was true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On October 3rd, trial was held in Superior Court, Department 92, City and County of Los Angeles, State of California. In a moment, the results of that trial.
Now, here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you, George Fenneman. Friends, I make it a habit to carry 2 packs of Fatimas around with me. One's for my smoking, and the second one's for smokers I see with other king-size cigarettes. All I have to say is, here, compare Fatima. I know they're going to be sold on Fatimas the next time we meet. How about comparing Fatima yourself? You'll find Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters, cools the smoke, all for your protection. You get those extra puffs because Fatima is 21% longer than standard cigarette size. And Fatima gives you an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality. Prove it today. Buy Fatima.
When their aunt, Bernice Alberta Marin, was apprehended on suspicion of 187 PC, the 4 Baker children were taken into protective custody by juvenile authorities. Bernice Marin was indicted for murder and entered a plea of self-defense. She claimed that at the time of the murder, her sister attacked her with a knife while they argued over the division of the $400 check. Bernice Marin was tried in Superior Court by a jury composed of 9 men and 3 women. She was found not guilty. You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department. Technical advisors Captain Jack Donahoe, Sergeant Marty Wynn, Sergeant Vance Brasher. Heard tonight were Barney Phillips, Virginia Gregg, Vic Perrin. Script by Jim Moser. Music by Walter Schumann. Hal Gibney speaking.
Fatima Cigarettes, best of all king-size cigarettes, has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles. Next, it's Counter Spy on NBC.
You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned the homicide detail. A man is shot down in the street of a residential neighborhood. He's critically wounded. You don't know who the assailant is. You don't know where he is. Your job, get him.
Compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
Prove Fatima quality yourself.
You'll find Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
You'll find Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
And in Fatima, you get an extra mild and soothing smoke. Plus, the added protection of Fatima quality.
Definitely the best quality in its class, but the same price as the cigarette you're now smoking.
Buy Fatima in the bright, sunny yellow pack. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Thursday, January 20th. It was mild in Los Angeles. We were working the night watch out of homicide detail. My partner's Ed Jacobs. The boss is Thad Brown, chief of detectives. My name's Friday. I was on the way back from dinner, and it was 9:57 p.m. when I got back to the city hall, room 42, homicide detail.
Hi, make it in time?
No, they were closed up.
Oh, that's too bad. Where'd you eat?
Well, that cafeteria down the street was terrible.
Nothing at all, huh?
Well, I figured I'd be safe with a corned beef hash. Even that wasn't much. Soggy, you know. Probably standing all day.
That's too bad. I asked Johnny if he'd stay open a couple of minutes late. Told him you were coming right over.
The place was closed tight when I got there. Couldn't raise anybody.
Tough luck. Short ribs were really good tonight. Some great pie, too. Boysenberry. Best I had anyway.
Say, you got any of those bicarb pills in your locker? I could sure use one.
I'm afraid not. Gave the last one to Gene Bechtel tonight. He ate at the cafeteria, too.
Hiya.
Oh, hi.
What do you say?
Any phone calls for me yet? Muriel down at the staff's office called. That run you asked for, they got it ready.
It was the only call, huh?
Yeah.
What is it, Al? Something wrong?
No, why?
You've been moping around like you lost your best friend. What's the matter? You mad at the world?
No, just my in-laws. The wife had her father and mother over for lunch today. The old man's getting to be a real pain in the neck.
Don't get along with him, huh?
I keep trying to. Doesn't seem to do much good. All he can think of is money. It's all he can talk about.
Why let it bother you? My in-laws have been talking about it for years. Forget it.
He won't let you. The minute he puts his foot inside the front door, it's the first thing you hear. Crusty old guy. That pipe he smokes enough to knock you over.
Why don't you duck out when they come over? Tell them you got a call. You have to go to work.
Well, the wife's onto that one. She makes me hang around. Keeps telling me her father and mother like me. You never know if the old guy's a real tyrant. See, the wife comes from a big family. Every time I see her old man, he has to make a point of telling me how smart his other sons-in-law are. How much dough they're making. Yeah, same routine every time. One of his daughters married a carpenter. He's making $20 a day. One of them married a hod carrier. He's making $25 a day. Always ends up asking me how much I'm making.
Why don't you tell him it's none of his business?
I did today. That's what started the argument. I walked out. Crusty old guy.
Yeah, so I get it. Homicide, Friday. Yes, sir. Where? Would you repeat? Yes, sir, I have it. Fine, thank you. Yes, sir, right away. Shooting. Kirkman near Alpine.
Let me grab my coat.
No details?
Man down on the sidewalk, apparently hurt bad. Neighbor said it was a family fight. Come on, we better hustle it out.
Let's go. That's one good thing about this job.
What do you mean?
Trouble. You don't know what it is till you hear about other people's.
Sergeant Al Shambra, Ed and I drove out to the scene of the shooting. Code 3, red light and siren. We located the victim lying on the sidewalk approximately 50 feet from the intersection of Kirkman Avenue and Alpine Street. He was a dark-haired man, looked to be in his early 40s, tan complexion, well-built. He'd been shot several times in the chest, once in the shoulder. He appeared to be unconscious. A handful of curious neighbors were standing by. One of them, a short, balding man, identified himself as Ernest Whitley. He said he was the victim's next-door neighbor.
What's the man's name, Mr. Whitley?
Wally Radford lives right next door to me. Been my neighbor for years.
Where do you live?
This apartment court right here. I live in the cottage next to the end when they're number 8. Wally lives in number 9. One right on the end there facing us. See?
Yeah, what do you know about the shooting, Mr. Whitley?
Well, I didn't have anything to do with it. I was watching television with the wife. I heard the shots outside. You can ask the wife. She'll tell you.
You heard the shots outside of Radford's cottage, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Where's the ambulance? Why don't they come?
They've been notified. They're on their way.
Well, who did the shooting, Whitley? Would you know that?
Well, not for sure. We were watching television, like I said, when I heard the shots, wife and I. First I heard the shots, and then I heard somebody yell. I thought it was some high school kids in a hot rod or something. You know, horsing around outside. Wife told me to get up and take a look anyway, so I did. On the way to the door, I heard another shot. Then somebody yelled out again like they were hurt. Must have been 6 or 7 shots anyway. Just as I opened the door, I saw Wally go running past. I didn't know what was coming off. He ran right out toward the street here. Weaving back and forth, looked like he'd had a couple of drinks. I didn't know what it was.
You didn't see the actual shooting? You didn't see anyone with a gun?
Well, no. The only one I saw was Wally. He ran right by me, holding his hands up to his chest. I yelled to him, but he didn't stop. I didn't know if he was drunk or what. When he got out here to the sidewalk, I saw him fall down. I went after him. It was terrible. Say, either one of you got a smoke?
Yeah, sure.
Look, I'm still shaking like a leaf.
There you go.
Swell. Thank you.
Want a light?
Yeah, please. Thanks.
You're welcome. Was Radford still conscious when you reached him, do you know?
Just about, yeah. I don't know how many times he was shot. He was rolling around on the ground. Pain was terrible. The whole front of his shirt was all stained. I yelled to Mike Desmond, one of the other neighbors. He called you fellas.
Did Radford say anything to you? How it happened?
I kept moaning about the pain. Kind of made me sick. It was a relief when he passed out.
Did he tell you how it happened?
Yeah, his wife. I figured that was it when I saw what was wrong with him.
He told you his wife shot him?
Well, they had a big fight today, Wally and his wife. Started this afternoon, been going on all day, all night, yelling at each other, throwing things around. I never expected this, though. Something must have snapped. She must be out of her mind.
Where's his wife now?
I don't know. Still back in their cottage, I guess. I've been here since the shooting. I didn't see her leave.
Joe? Yeah.
We got our hands full.
Now, what do you got?
Was talking to one of the neighbor women back in the court here. She said that Mrs. Radford phoned her about 5 minutes ago. Identified herself as the victim's wife, cottage number 9.
What did Miss Radford want with the neighbor?
She said she was giving fair warning. She wanted her to pass the word along.
What do you mean?
Claims she's going to kill anybody that comes after her.
10:28 p.m. The ambulance arrived and the attendants administered first aid to the victim of the shooting, Wallace Radford. Before he was rushed to Georgia Street Receiving Hospital for further treatment, Radford regained consciousness long enough to confirm the fact that it was his wife who shot him. That was about all he could tell us before the sedatives took effect. The 2 officers and 2 of the radio cars which were standing by were detailed to keep the crowd away from the apartment court where the shooting took place, in particular Cottage 9, where the Radfords lived. The blinds were drawn in the house. There were no lights showing. We called the Radford cottage on the phone, but there was no answer. Al Shambra and Ed circled around and back for a closer look at the place. I continued interviewing the Radford's next-door neighbor, Ernest Whitley.
I guess I should have known it'd come to this someday, the way they've been fighting lately, Wally and his wife. They've been doing nothing but wrangling, day in, day out.
Well, you any idea where Mrs. Radford got the gun?
She must have used Wally's, I guess. Don't know where else she'd get her hands on one.
He keeps a gun in the house, does he?
Yeah, as long as I've known him, he has. 38 automatic. I don't know the make, though.
Do you happen to know if Mrs. Radford was used to handling a gun?
No, typical woman. I remember Wally and Stella were over for cards one night. Stella, that's Mrs. Radford.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know how it came up, but Wally and Stella started arguing about him keeping a gun in the house. Stella didn't like it a bit, said she was afraid of guns. Didn't even like to have him around. I'm surprised she even knew how to pull a trigger.
You said the Radfords had a big fight today. What was it about? Do you happen to know?
Same old thing, I guess. Stella was always accusing Wally of running around with other women, running around town drinking. As far as I know, it wasn't true. Matter of fact, it was just the opposite. If anybody was on the town, it was Stella. I happen to know at least one guy she was making eyes at. Oh, here's your friend.
Hi, what's it look like?
Not good. House is pitch dark. Can't hear anyone moving around inside.
Won't be easy to get her out of there, Joe, the way the cottage is situated.
Why, what's the problem?
The rear of the house backs up against that hill there. There's a small space between the end of the house and the hill. No back door, just windows. One of them's open a few inches.
You mean the front door's the only way in the place, huh?
No, there's a side door on the left of the house there, left-hand side.
Yeah, it's a kitchen door, Sergeant. Leads right into the kitchen. Just like our place. All the cottages are laid out the same.
The living room's just inside the front door, then, huh?
Yeah, that's right. Bedrooms in the right rear, kitchen in the left rear. A small bathroom leading off the bedroom leads to the left.
She won't come out peaceably. How about a tear gas shell? That ought to bring her out.
Well, I don't know if we'll need it, Al. Might be a waste of time. Whitley here was just telling me Mrs. Radford isn't familiar with guns. You think she know how to reload the automatic, Whitley?
No, sir. I'm pretty sure she wouldn't. I don't even know if Wally had another clip of shells around the house. Even if he did, Stella wouldn't know what to do with it.
Well, how about the clip that's already in the gun? Good chance she's got a couple of shells left.
She fired more than half a dozen of them, I know that. She must have gone crazy. There were at least 7 or 8 shots.
Well, they're just about empty, the gun. How about it? You want to try rushing the place?
Let's go. Okay with me.
All right, you better stay out here for the time being, Mr. Whitley. Might be some shooting. You know you taking any chances.
Yes, sir. Sure. Okay, Sergeant. I'll be right back here if you want me.
Thank you very much. All right, let's try it.
How you want to handle it?
Why don't you and Al take the side door? I'll go in the front.
You want to see if we can get a rise out of her first?
Yeah. Might be she'll give it up without a fight. I'll call out to her a couple of times first. If there's no answer, we'll rush the place.
Okay.
Now, let's make it all together. I'll just wait for a signal. I'll call it out.
All right.
Okay.
That's it. Side door just behind the shrub over there. Give us a little time to get around her, huh?
Yeah, now, when I call out the rush, make it fast. It's the only thing we got in our favor. We'll try and surprise you.
Right. See you later.
Be careful.
Miss Radford? Miss Radford, can you hear me? Police officers, we've got your place surrounded. We want you to come out. Can you hear me, Miss Radford? We want you to come out. Miss Radford? All right, let's go. Hit the door.
Joe, you all right?
Yeah, what about you?
In the kitchen. It's empty.
Okay, just a minute. Living room's empty. Not in here.
And in the bedroom. Nothing here.
Yeah, how about that? Hey, Joe, back here.
Where are you?
Bedroom, straight back.
All right.
Have a look.
Did you check the bathroom and all the closets?
Everything. She's gone.
10:46 p.m. We double-checked the cottage, all the buildings, and possible hiding places adjoining the Radford house, and then we combed through the immediate neighborhood around the apartment court. There was no trace of the suspect, Stella Radford. In the apartment, we found a picture which neighbors told us was a good likeness of Mrs. Radford. Al Shambra got to a phone, called the office, and a local broadcast and an APB was gotten out on her. We figured she probably slipped out of the house without being noticed during the general excitement immediately after the shooting. Her phone call to one of the neighbors warning that she'd kill anyone who came after her only served as a stall to give her more time for a getaway. 10:55 p.m. Ray Pinker and the crime lab crew arrived and began their preliminary investigation. Judging from the bloodstains found on the furniture and the rug in the living room and on the front steps of the cottage, Radford had first been shot while he was in the living room, and then apparently he ran out the front door to escape the gunfire. A trail of 7 empty shells ejected from a .38 caliber automatic seemed to indicate that his wife followed him out the front door, still firing at him as he tried to get away. We checked the apartment court garage, but the Radford's car was still there. We remained at the apartment court interviewing the neighbors and trying to get a line on some of Mrs. Radford's known friends and associates.
Joe, how'd you make out?
Not much, Al. The neighbor I talked to hardly even knew the Radfords. How about you?
Not much better. The only apartment up the way name's Joanne Taylor. She told me she knew Radford's wife fairly well. Says she has a sister in town. Doesn't have any idea where she lives, though.
How about the boyfriends Mrs. Radford's supposed to be running around with? She know anything about that?
She thinks she was doing a little running around. She doesn't know who the men are, though. Hear anything about Radford's condition?
Yeah, I checked with Georgia Street a couple of minutes ago. It's pretty critical. I don't know if he's going to make it or not.
Joe, Al, back here, hustler.
Come on. What do you got?
Radford's neighbor next door, Whitley's. Just got a call from Ms. Radford. She's talking to Mr. Whitley on the phone right now.
Let's go.
I know what this is all about.
Oh, yeah, Sergeant. I was just going to run and get you.
Do you have Mrs. Radford on the phone?
I did, yeah. She hung up just before you came in. Wouldn't talk, though.
Did she tell you where she is?
No, she sure sounded funny. I think something snapped. She's a little crazy.
Well, what'd she say? Why'd she call you?
Said she wanted to find out if her no-good husband was dead yet. That's all I could make out. The rest was just a lot of gibberish.
She wouldn't give you any idea where she was? Where she was phoning from?
No, I asked her, but she just laughed at me. Might still have a chance to find out, though.
Yeah, how's that?
She's going to call me back.
While Ed and I waited with Mr. Whitley in his apartment, Al Shambra got to another phone in one of the adjoining apartments, called our business office, and gave them the number of the Whitleys' telephone. He asked them to make arrangements as soon as possible to have all incoming calls at the Whitleys traced to their origin. Meantime, Ed and I were briefing Ernest Whitley as to what he should say if and when the suspect, Stella Radford, called him back. There was no phone extension in his apartment, so the only way we'd be able to monitor the conversation would be for Whitley to share the receiver with one of us. We waited. 11:30 p.m., 11:45, midnight, 12:15 a.m.
Sergeant?
All right, try and keep the receiver tilted so we can listen.
Yeah, sure. Hope I got it straight.
Okay.
Hello?
Ernie, this is Stella. Did you find out what I told you to?
Yeah, I called the hospital. Wally's a lot better. It's not as bad as they thought it was.
What do you mean it's not bad? You trying to kid me?
No, it's the truth, Stella. It's not half bad at all. Wally's going to be all right.
Couldn't be. I shot him 4 or 5 times. How could he be all right?
Look, I didn't say he was all right. I said he was going to be all right. Look, it's nothing serious. Not half as bad as they thought.
You're lying. You know you're lying, Ernie.
Look, come on, snap out of it, will you, Stella? It's going to be all right. Wally forgives you. Believe me, he does. Now, look, why don't you come home? We'll get the whole thing straightened out. There won't be any trouble.
Why don't you stop trying to kid me? It's not going to be all right. I've seen the last of you and the last of Wally.
Stell.
I'm with my boyfriend now. We're getting out of town.
Now, wait a minute, Stell. Use your head, huh? Don't go rushing in anything.
You don't have to tell me. I know what I'm doing. I don't care if that dumb husband of mine lives or dies. But just tell him he'd better not try to follow us.
Oh, Stella.
My boyfriend's an ex-con. He's got a gun and he knows how to use it.
Well, Stella, will you listen a minute?
You can tell that to the cops, too, in case they're going to follow us. They try and stop us and they're going to have a fight in their
Look,
heads.
you keep talking. Will you listen for just a minute? Where are you now? Let me come down and talk to you.
Not a chance. Just be a waste of time. I'm leaving with my boyfriend in half an hour. You can tell Wally I hope he dies.
Wait a minute, Stella. He gave me a message for you, honey. He left something with me. He wants you to have it.
What?
His wallet. He gave it to me just before he left for the hospital. Got $94 in it. Says he doesn't care what you think of him. He wants you to have the money.
$94?
Yeah.
He didn't have that much money with him. Where'd he get it?
Well, I don't know anything about that, but it's right here in his wallet, just the way he gave it to me. He wants you to have it. That's all I know.
I don't get it. He didn't have that much money.
Well, what do you want me to do? Take it back to him? Tell him you didn't want it? Look, give the guy a break, huh, Stell? It's the only way he's got to show you how he feels about you. Stell? Isn't that right? Well, how about it, Stell?
You got the money with you?
I told you, yeah. Pick it up anytime you want.
No. You bring it down here. I'll pay your cab fare, buy you a drink. You can meet my boyfriend.
Yeah.
Just a minute.
Stell? Hello, Stell?
Yeah? It's about 12:30 now. I'll be down here in half an hour, huh?
Uh-huh.
I'm in a bar right on the corner. You can't miss it.
Where? What corner?
9th and Avalon.
As soon as the suspect, Stella Radford, hung up, we went to the apartment cottage next door where Al Shambra was on the phone in constant communication with our business office. He told us that somehow there'd been a slip-up. They were unable to trace the call to its point of origin. 12:36 a.m. According to plan, Ernest Whitley left his apartment, called a taxi, and headed downtown to keep his appointment with the suspect, Stella Radford. Ed Jacobs and Lieutenant Tony Ruiz from Homicide followed him. Al Shambra and I stood by at the apartment. More waiting. 1 a.m., 1:30, 2 a.m.
Think they'd call us anyway. Wonder what the hitch is.
Well, it's kind of hard to figure, Al. It's either a bum steer or they ran into some kind of trouble, maybe.
And Mrs. Radford, she really warmed up to the idea when the money was mentioned.
Well, apparently, yeah. I was listening in when Whitley gave her the story. She seemed to go for it. It's kind of hard to tell. The way this whole thing shapes up, she can...
Might be them now. Give a look.
Joe?
Oh, yeah, Ed. What happened? How'd it go?
We covered the border closing, cruised the neighborhood, gave her plenty of time.
Yeah.
No luck. She didn't show.
You are listening to Dragnet, authentic stories of your police force in action.
Fatima, America's first, largest selling blended cigarette. Now king size. The only king-size cigarette that makes you this money-back guarantee.
Buy a pack of Fatimas. Enjoy Fatima quality, extra mildness, and superbly blended tobaccos.
If you're not convinced Fatima is better than the king-size cigarette you're now smoking, just return the pack and the unsmoked Fatimas by August 1st, 1952, for your money back plus postage. Fatima, Box 37, New York 1.
Buy Fatima. Compare them with any other king-size cigarette.
1. Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
2. Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
3. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
And you get an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality.
Remember, more smokers now insist on Fatima quality than ever before. Buy Fatima. In Fatima, the difference is quality. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Friday, January 21st, 2:28 a.m. With the failure of the suspect, Stella Radford, to keep the date with her next-door neighbor, Ernest Whitley, at the Avalon Boulevard bar, we reached a temporary stalemate. Despite the fact that checks were made at all restaurants, bars, and other business places in the vicinity of 9th and Avalon open that time of night, there was no report or trace of the suspect. While the search continued, we stood by at the Whitley apartment in the hope that Mrs. Radford might call back. A check of our Records and Identification Bureau failed to turn up any record on either the victim or the suspect, his wife. Ed called Georgia Street Receiving Hospital again, but there was no change. Wallace Radford's condition was still critical. At 2:35 a.m., Stella Radford telephoned again. While we listened in, she told Whitley that she'd had no intention of keeping that appointment with him at the Avalon Boulevard bar. She told him that she knew he was working with the police, that she saw officers follow Whitley to the bar where they were supposed to have met. She again warned him of the consequences in the event anybody tried to apprehend her. After she hung up, we checked with the business office, and they told us that the calls had been coming from a telephone prefix which was impossible to trace. 10 minutes later, Whitley got another call from the Radford woman. The conversation went on for the better part of 20 minutes. She didn't seem to make much rhyme or reason. Her only concern was the condition of her husband, whether or not he was dead. She hung up abruptly, but 15 minutes later, she called Whitley again.
Look, Stella, I told you there isn't going to be any trouble. Now, why don't you go and see Wally? He's lying down there in the hospital. He wants to see you. How about it, huh, Stella?
Is he dead or not? That's all I want to know. My boyfriend and I are leaving first thing in the morning. I want to find out before I go.
Why don't you at least give me a chance to talk to you, Stella, huh? We've been good friends. You know I wouldn't do anything to hurt you or Wally. Now, let me talk to you, huh?
There's nothing to talk about. If you got anything to say, you can tell me now. All I want to do is find out about
I
Wally.
told you he's hurt, but he's going to be all right. It's not serious. Stella?
Why don't you stop lying to me?
But I'm not lying, Stella. I wouldn't lie about something like that. What's the matter with you anyway? You been drinking?
What's it your business? You're not kidding me, Artie. You're trying to help the cops. Don't you think I know that? What kind of a fool you think I am?
But I'm trying to help, Stella, that's all.
Sure, you're trying to help. Not me, though. You're trying to help the cops. I know they're with you. When we made that date to meet at the bar, you told them all about it.
No.
You left the house and they left right after you. I know all about it.
No, you got it wrong, honey. I'm trying to help both of you, you and Wally. I'm trying to help the best way I know how. Now, why don't you come home? I told you we'll straighten the whole thing out. There won't be any trouble.
Don't hand me that. I said we're leaving town, me and my boyfriend. Now, what about that money? $94. She said Wally wanted me to have.
Yeah, that's right. He does. Now, how can I get it to you if you don't trust me?
Get away from the cops, that's all.
Oh, Stella.
Maybe I could use the money, but I'm not giving myself up.
Look, you're wrong about the cops, Stella. Believe me, you are. Now, why won't you let me meet you someplace? Any place you want, just let me talk to you.
How many times do I have to tell you there's nothing to talk about? All I want to know is about Wally. Is he dead yet?
But I told you, he's not dead. He's going to be all right. Look, why can't you believe me? It's not what they thought. Wally will be okay.
Ed, in the next room.
But what for, Stella? Why? Now, come on, snap out of it, huh? No, it's the truth, so help me.
Yeah, what's the matter?
Well, it just happened to strike me. You hear that streetcar that just went by a minute ago?
Yeah, I did. Why?
Did you notice a little before that when we were listening on the phone? Sounded like the same thing coming over the line, didn't it?
Yeah, come to think of it, it did. Matter of fact, I heard it a couple of times coming over the phone. It's pretty regular.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Streetcars have been passing by here regularly, too. Not much of a time lapse, either. Not much more than a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean between the time when we hear it over the phone and the time the streetcar actually passes this place.
Yeah.
Well, if we've got the right angle, there's only one way to figure here. She's phoning from somewhere in the neighborhood, and she's fairly close, wouldn't you say?
Where do we start looking?
Well, car tracks only run two ways. 3:30 a.m. Ed and I went back into the next room and continued to monitor the conversation between Whitley and Mrs. Radford. Whitley seemed to know how to keep the suspect talking, even though the purpose of her conversation seemed to make little or no sense. At 3:42 a.m., while we listened in, on the other end of the line, we again heard the sound of a streetcar approach and pass. Ed checked his watch. Approximately 1 minute, 38 seconds later, we heard a streetcar pass by in front of the apartment court. Before Ed and I left, we jotted down a note for Whitley asking him to keep Mrs. Radford on the line just as long as possible. We got in the car and drove north along the car tracks at about the normal speed of a streetcar. 1 minute and 38 seconds of driving brought us a distance of little more than 8 blocks. It was on the fringe of a park area. There were only 3 residential buildings in the immediate vicinity. There were no lights showing in any of them. We checked the location for public telephones, but we found none. 4:15 a.m., we turned around, drove back to the apartment court, and using the same timing procedure, 1 minute, 38 seconds at 25 miles an hour, we drove along the car line in a southerly direction.
Sure not much of a choice. Bars are closed, most of the restaurants. No lights burning on this block.
A few up ahead there in the next block, Ed.
Yeah. Got to come pretty soon, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a minute right now. I can't see how we'd be wrong on it, can you?
Too much to write off as just a coincidence.
Minute 15 seconds. Minute 20. Better slow down, huh?
Yeah. What do you think?
Well, there's a service station across the street.
It's closed up.
Well, a lot of them have outside payphones, don't they? You see any?
No. None on this side. Let's see, I'll pull up in there, huh?
Yeah. There's a phone booth in the back there. There's no lights, though.
Looks like somebody in it. Looks like a woman. Yeah, it is.
Come on. All right, hold it up, lady.
She's running for it, Joe.
All right, come on. Hold it up, lady. Police officer.
Let go. Let go of me. What do you think you're doing?
Police officers, lady. Here's our identification. I'd like to talk to you.
You leave me alone. Just leave me alone. That's all. I don't have to talk to you.
Your name's Stella Radford, isn't it?
No, it isn't.
That's your identification?
Who sent you here? Who was it?
Are you Stella Radford?
You couldn't have found out. How'd you know I was here? It was Ernie, wasn't it? Him and his friends. He told you.
No, ma'am.
I don't see how you found me. Somebody had to tell you. You never could have found me. I don't see how I made any mistake.
Yeah, that's right. Let's go, lady.
The story you have just heard was true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On April 16th, trial was held in Superior Court, Department 88, City and County of Los Angeles, State of California. In a moment, the results of that trial.
And now, here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you, George Fenneman. Friends, as you know, Fatima Cigarettes makes it possible for us to bring you this Dragnet series. And each week, of course, we set aside a couple of minutes to tell you about Fatima's. We've already told you why we believe Fatima is the best of all king-size cigarettes. The rest is up to you. I suggest you buy a pack of Fatimas and compare them yourself. Fatimas give you an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality, something no other cigarette has. Look for that bright, sunny yellow pack tomorrow and try Fatima.
The victim of the shooting, Wallace John Radford, recovered from his wounds and refused to press charges against his wife. However, she was tried in Superior Court and found guilty of Section 245 PC, assault with a deadly weapon. She was sentenced to the term prescribed by law. Assault with a deadly weapon is punishable by imprisonment in the state penitentiary for a term not less than 1 nor more than 10 years.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Joseph M. Kinnick, President of the California State Juvenile Officers Association.
Thank you. The California State Juvenile Officers Association has asked me to present this award of merit to Jack Webb and to Dragnet for outstanding service to law enforcement in the authentic and sympathetic portrayal of the police officer in the field of delinquency control.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kenny. And I'll be looking forward to meeting you again and the members of your association at your annual conference banquet tomorrow night here in Los Angeles.
You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department. Technical advisors Captain Jack Donahoe, Sergeant Marty Wynn, Sergeant Vance Brasher. Heard tonight were Barney Phillips, Herb Ellis, Jack Crucian, Helen Cleve. Script by Jim Moser. Music by Walter Schumann. Hal Gibney speaking.
Fatima Cigarettes, best of all king-size cigarettes, has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles. Ladies and gentlemen, nature plus the threat of man-made catastrophes make continuing help and constant preparedness necessary. The Red Cross binds these needs. Answer the Red Cross call with a generous contribution.
Next, it's Mr. Keene, Tracer of Lost Persons on NBC.